I'm gonna get this started. So you asked to this Daven Mayeda, or is that how I say it?
Daven Mayeda, yeah.
Okay, and is it Japanese?
Or it's Japanese. Are we starting?
Yes.
Okay, wait, hold on.
All right, so I just realized that these little candles were little mechanical candles. It's cute.
Yeah. Fire hazard.
Yeah, I know. I totally understand. But okay, so Daven Mayeda. Okay. Thank you for letting me do this interview with you, and I hope it's going to be fun. You talked to me a little bit about. You asked me earlier why am I doing these, and I said initially that it was because I feel like there's a huge disconnect between what people see people doing and them juxtaposing, whatever that word is, onto people. It's a big word. Onto them what they want them to be, right? So like let's say somebody watches your, and this is just an example. Let's say someone watches your videos and they're like, wow, this person's amazing. They must be this, and they look at what you're writing and they're like, oh, this is amazing. And then they create this almost alternate personality of what you are, and then they come and meet you, and then either you're so much more than that, or you're not that at all, right? And so what I'm really interested in is that these people that are actually saying something, they're not necessarily being loud, but they're being honest, okay, and they're following, they're trying to follow a voice, okay, and they're telling them to do something, but there's always more to the story, right? And so that's what I'm kind of interested in, is the process you're going through as an individual, as an artist, as a mover, and just seeing if we can create a dialogue so people can get deeper into what the artist is going through, because we're such a big hodgepodge now of like what we do as movement and what we are as an individual person, whereas before it was just, you could just be a person with an idea, or you could just be a person that moved, except for like in the modern dance kind of world where like they would oftentimes tie things in behind that, but it's kind of coming more to the light now.
Right.
Yeah, so anyway, going on from that.
This is going to be juicy. I'm going to give all the meaty stuff first.
It's raw, unfiltered juice.
I'm Daven. I'm 36. I was a hair and makeup artist in the entertainment industry for 12 years. I do rhythmic gymnastics, and I was a gymnast until I was 13. From the time I was 13 till 6 months ago, I did not do any rhythmic gymnastics. No dance. Nothing.
You didn't do any working out or anything?
I lifted weights.
Okay, lifted weights.
Maybe practiced some handstands.
Okay.
But what had happened was, at an early age, I was bullied. I was bullied for doing rhythmic gymnastics because it's a quote-unquote girl sport. I was bullied for being flexible. I was bullied for being able to do flips. And
where did you grow up at?
In Torrance, California.
Torrance, California. Okay, and that's primarily what type of demographic?
It's mixed. It's like Asian American, like Caucasian, African American, Latino. It's mixed.
It's pretty typical.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So my mind at 13 couldn't handle that, so I had stopped, and I was obsessed with gymnastics. I had a magazine that came every month that I looked at.
Was it Technique?
No, it was International Gymnast.
Okay.
But I was born in '83, so when I was 13, all we had was VHS.
Yeah.
And all we had was magazines. So if you liked a band, or if you liked a gymnast, if you liked a sport, you either had to record it when it came on TV, or you had to buy it in a magazine, or you had to somehow get access to it. There was no YouTube. There was no internet. There was like this mystery. So it was a different time, and nothing was visible. I didn't see any other gymnasts. I didn't see any other rhythmic gymnasts except the people in the magazines. So to make a long story short, I closed that chapter, and I just felt 6 months ago that I couldn't continue my life without reopening that scar, because I wanted to be free from it. I wanted to let it go, and my body wanted to move again. My body wanted to pick up a prop. My body wanted to do all these sorts of things. So
Was it one of those things when you'd be doing hair, you'd see something, you're like, I want to play with that.
Exactly.
Right now.
it always was like, I felt like I was in the wrong place. I was doing the wrong thing. And then in my journey through self-discovery and self-help, I realized how far away I was from actually what I wanted to do when I was a child.
Yeah.
So now, I have nothing figured out. I'm totally okay with that. I have 6 months of practicing rhythmic gymnastics, working with props, and like how you said when you opened the video that about me being an artist or a mover or this or that. I never saw myself like that. It only happened last week where I was like, oh, maybe I'm a performer. Maybe I have some sort of value. Maybe I say this very humbly, I had no idea how good I was. And my filter of myself is so skewed because of past trauma that it doesn't register like how it registers to other people.
Yeah.
Like for me to do a cartwheel, it's like, oh, that's like elementary school. For most of the other population of the world, a cartwheel is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
so,
barely anybody will ever go upside down, much less do a cartwheel.
I know. And I had no idea that my value system was so jaded. It's crazy.
Well, when we hold ourselves to, especially if you're someone that has watched the greatest do stuff, or someone who has seen that at that level, you always are, people say like you shouldn't judge yourself against other people. It's like, well, no, you kind of have to sometimes. And, especially with something that you enjoy because you want to get better. Who doesn't want to get better? It's a huge satisfaction to becoming better at something. But in that aspect of it, it's not something that's making you that's pushing you back. It's something that pushes you forward because you want to do that. And when I used to watch breakdancing videos when I was younger, this one website called Just the Boot. Right, was it Just the Boot? No, it was Style Boot. It was a French website. It was the only place I could find breakdancing videos on that were really good. Right, and I always compare myself to those French b-boys, and so I would kind of I tried to be like those people, and later on I realized it was like, oh, I was judging myself against these people the whole time, and I finally got to other people that were my age doing stuff, and at that time I was like, I'm doing this really well, and because I could tell, because I was comparing myself and studying, I was studying, that kind of thing, and so I became a scholarly person to what I was doing at that time. Right. But I can see how that could be a comparison where you're saying that you didn't know that you moved well.
Yeah.
Until recently, right?
I had no idea. And here's the real deal, and of what I've learned, and this works for me. I don't know if it works for anybody else, but it's great to have goals. It's great to have people you look up to. I need to find that magical feeling inside myself now with where I'm at and not keep working so that one day when I'm able to do X, Y, and Z, I'm going to feel this. Like the magic has to be now.
Yeah, you were saying that actually when you were talking. The first day you came in, you were like, well, what should I do to do this? I'm like, well, if you want to get these skills, pick about 3 different elements to work on. This much time, the rest of between, and you're like,
it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
Because everything's based, off of progression in any kind of movement.
Yeah, but you have to play. I mean, we're as humans, and this is a very deep thing. Now, there's definitely, I've talked to some great athletes, and so one person I'm really fond of is Steve Atlas, and he's a bodybuilder and a performance acrobat that does hand balancing. He's 230 pounds, jacked like a Roman statue, Greek god, and he can, and his prime he was doing one-arm handstands and things like that. It's unheard of at that level, right? So, but, even, you have to have elements of play. If you're only focusing always on the goal, and play can be a goal, it doesn't have to be a strict format thing like that. And there's concepts, and then there's strict things as well. But I can see what you mean by especially myself, I'm like, well, what's the next goal? Okay, I want to get my double full twist, and you spend everything about getting this thing, right? And usually along the way, you either get injured, and then you feel like you failed, right? Or you start realizing that you're becoming too specialized, right? So you can't enjoy the other things that are part of it. And it's and I'm looking at all these colors right now. It's there's so much enjoyment in this across the board, right? It's like looking at a platter of amazing fruit, shiny, across the board, doing that kind of stuff. And it's if you're only focusing on one thing, there's a time and place for it. but it needs as much time for you to play around and to get nourished by that.
Yes.
You get a lot of abstract movement, which is nourishing to you, versus just strict linear stuff and only focusing on one thing.
Right.
Right.
Here is, I need a coffee. I need my coffee for this.
This is delicious coffee. He made me some bulletproof coffee.
Bulletproof coffee.
These great mason jars here. So
I converted from plastic to glass. So
yeah, no, I love it. I mean, it's very, very nice.
I have had multiple eye infections my entire life since I was.
What are they?
Eye infections. Since I was 18. I think I've had about 10.
Yeah.
Every time I've gotten one, it's put me out of commission for about 2.5 weeks.
Okay.
Every
Is
time,
it like conjunctivitis kind of stuff?
Every time I've gotten one, I've lost some of my vision because it leaves a scar on my cornea.
Oh wow.
So I've been battling.
Is it one side or both?
It's both.
Oh my.
And I've been battling with chronic illness, insomnia, anxiety, depression, irritable bowel syndrome, chronic fatigue, joint pain, crazy things that Western medicine does not have any answers for. So I really came to the point where I woke up and my vision was like white. There was like,
I'm gonna turn my phone.
So basically, I woke up and my vision was all white. Couldn't read the text on my phone, couldn't read a book, and I had to admit myself that something was really wrong.
What age was this?
This happened my entire life, but this moment happened. It happened 3 times, and the last time that it happened was in October.
Okay.
I was working full time in New York.
October 2018.
2018. I was working full time in New York, making $150,000 a year, the most money I've ever made, sick as a dog. I was doing makeup and I couldn't see.
So you couldn't sleep?
I couldn't see.
Okay, you couldn't see.
I wasn't doing gymnastics.
You weren't moving?
I weren't moving. Couldn't wear bright clothing. I don't know how my life developed in that. It's because I just never got over my childhood trauma. So I believe 100% in psychosoma.
Okay.
That the mind manifests physical illness. I believe that 100%.
Is that short for psychosomatics?
Yep.
Okay.
So how I interpret my disease and my ailments, especially my eye problems, is that I was unable to see what an incredible human being I was and am.
Okay.
And through the process of self-discovery, and I say that very humbly because we're all incredible human beings.
Yeah.
You know.
Totally get it.
But I noticed through the last 6 months, hold on, I quit my job in October.
Okay.
I quit my career because I was like, we're done. I cashed out my 401k. I was I can't even sleep. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die or I'm gonna go blind.
Yeah.
Or both. So.
And on the outside, what are people seeing? That's
I'm
a
fine.
good question.
That's what happens with chronic illness.
They see you show up, they see you do your job, they see you go home, they see you go out, drink with friends, and then therefore everything's good.
Everything's good.
Okay.
And inside I'm like dying. They have no idea. Even the people that I told, I look fine. Even now I'm still sick.
Yeah.
You know, we were talking about this retreat.
I was really confused. He was saying like, I'm afraid my body can't handle this for 3 days, and I'm like, dude, you look great. You know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I was like, what happens is I'm still struggling. It's much better with sleep, but I still have body pain. I'm still need to nurture my body every day and be careful.
Yeah.
So.
It builds up. It's something that takes a while too.
The crazy thing was, once I started to really dive into self-help, mindfulness, movement, meditation, gratitude, self-analyzation, all these things, it brought up so much stuff. I felt like, and I do feel like I'm a lot of times being skinned alive because it's all of these old things that are shedding.
Do you find that so this is a loaded question, but do you find being around people helps to get that out, or do you find being alone helps to get that out? Are you finding more because being alone is allowing you to pinpoint where these things are actually happening and kind of letting them go, or do you find that being around other people can also help you to realize it as well?
Here's the funny thing. I can do this, right? The reason I can do that is because I practice when I'm anxious. I avoid the problem that is present. So I can play the piano, I can play the guitar, I can play the cello, I can dance, I can do rhythmic gymnastics, I can paint, I can do hair and makeup. I can do all these things because I avoided my feelings.
Okay.
Not because
So you're a Renaissance man because you feel like I didn't say you ran away, but you put it into something else.
It was running away.
Okay.
It was because it had nothing to do with just the joy. It was all pressure, or me like, I feel anxious, I need to do something. I feel anxious, I need to do something. So that's why when somebody would give me a compliment, like, oh my God, you're so amazing, it would bounce off my forehead.
Yeah.
It wouldn't register because my intention of why I'm doing it wasn't out of pure joy. And that's, I think, really ties into your motivation for making these videos of like peeling back the veil of what other people see to get into their heads of what actually is going on.
Artists are like onions, not cake.
And
Shrek quote.
Yeah. And to answer your question, the quietness stopping my life, figuring out a way to do nothing for this entire year, asking the people, cutting back my resources, doing whatever I needed to do to just stop.
Yeah, you needed to cut. There's way too much. You're in how do I put this? You need a little bit of oxygen and a tank for a fish to live, even if they're underneath water.
Yeah.
And it's like you were suffocating. So
unfortunately, my friends, my family, the people around, my colleagues, they all had to go away for me to discover what I was going through and what I was feeling, what I was doing to myself. Because people love you, they love you in the capacity they can love you. They also hold on to the identity that is you. And when you're trying to grow, you change every day. And when you're actively growing exponentially, the people around you do not like it. And that's a hard part.
Yeah, because they categorize you into this area, like, this is how I deal with Daven.
Exactly.
You know? Because this is what Daven does. And
exactly.
And I've actually had a student that came down from, she's a snowbird, she came down and she wanted to work some handstand work with me, and I'm like, oh, okay, I haven't met you in like 2 years ago, flip me up. But she was saying that, she came home, and everyone that she talked to was like, oh, this person is the person I remember back from back then. And let's say this person was dealing with some addictions. Right, and so they still treat that person as the person that's dealing with addiction.
Absolutely.
So with my father, right, and he had a lot of things that he had to deal with along the way, right, and I might interview him eventually as well. But I learned eventually that I had to stop treating my father as this person that maybe had dealt with all these different things to get through his traumas, and instead deal with him as somebody that's just a person in a park playing chess with. So like I had to just say, okay, today I'm not gonna. He's my father, still gonna say I love you and you're my dad and all that stuff.
Right.
But I'm not gonna be like, oh, you shouldn't eat that. Oh, you shouldn't do this. Oh, you shouldn't do that. What I was gonna do is I'm gonna say, hey, let's have a conversation like we're two people in a park playing chess.
Right.
And be more as like, this is an individual day. This day is new. This person is new today. They're not the same person they were yesterday. Their feelings and emotions are different today. Their needs and emotions are different today than they were yesterday. Right. And I think that's something people don't want to do because it's too complicated to think about that.
Right.
And not everybody can think that way. But anyway, going back.
The funny thing about my health is that I have the least money I've ever had. I have the less things I've ever had. I have less friends. I have less distractions. I have more internal work that I'm doing, and I'm the happiest I've ever been. Ever.
And for how many months now?
It's been, I have not been working officially since December.
Okay.
And I know what you guys are thinking. You're saying, I wish I could do the same. Look, I needed to make a choice. My health or the consequences. It was not about if I could or not. I had to stop. I had to beg people to help me. I had to ask people.
Did you feel you felt desperate then?
I was desperate.
So this is the thing though, I have to ask you a question, is that I feel a lot of people are in that place.
Absolutely.
But they are too afraid to do it, or they're to ask for help, or they, what's the right word I'm looking for here? Maybe they don't feel empowered to be vulnerable.
Yes.
You know?
That's why we're making this video.
Yeah.
And look, this world is temporary. Our bodies are temporary. It's gone in a flash. There is no time to sit around and bullshit yourself. Because if you want to do something, you need to do it now. It doesn't matter the circumstances. You just need to figure out how it will work for you with your risk. Gambling, you know, I'm a high roller. I've always been like that. Like, if my heart is like, move to Mexico, I'm like, bye. You know, if my heart is like, do rhythmic gymnastics, I'm like, twirling my ribbon. I've always been like that, and I've learned how to conquer the fear of like the what ifs, because those obviously come up. Right now I'm dealing with internally like injury, prevention, etc., versus actually continuing moving. Like, what is my viewpoint of that? And you know, I'm only gonna have this. My body gets older every second that goes by, and every second that goes by is closer to my body deteriorating. It's just nature. So I'm just celebrating my body now, where I'm at, and I can train safely. I can listen to my body. But without negating the risk, quote unquote, there's no way I'm going to be able to access that joy. It just is not possible. And that's with every facet of life. Yeah.
And I think that's true across the board for people that are pursuing something artistic, movement-wise, or something that's not artistic or movement-wise. I mean, I think people that make sacrifices, you know, to do what they want to do, whether it's you know, be a $5 billion person that has to, their sacrifices are probably going to be lots of hip, ankle, and knee replacements because they're not moving their body and they're sitting down at a desk or doing things like that, or they're going to have really, you know, they're going to sacrifice their, you know, possibly certain social standings or things like that. You know, so I think this happens at multiple levels. There's sacrifice going on, but the thing I think that makes a difference is not that whether people say, well, you know, if you want to get ahead, you have to sacrifice, and it's like, I think what they're really trying to say is that the sacrifice needs to be for something that you find meaningful. Right? And whether that's making $1 billion a year, or pursuing something shiny, or, you know, or like, you know, it's like, or, you know, or just, you know, or finding that this is yourself and this is what you want to do with it, then that's fine, but it's like, make a goddamn choice, you know?
I mean, that's why I crashed and burned in the hair and makeup industry, was that I always knew I was replaceable. And in order for me to set myself apart, I needed to act in ways that were not necessarily me. I had to be more than what was just me, being relaxed. And I can definitely say there are not many rhythmic gymnasts, let alone male rhythmic gymnasts. Anywhere. Maybe in Spain, there's a bunch of them in Japan.
I want to get back to that. We could go towards so many ways. My grandfather actually owned a hair salon. My uncle owned a hair salon called the Jonathan Caban Hair Salon, and I think I told you about that a little bit.
I think so.
In California. He like supported all the local bands and did all their hair and you know, and everything along that kind of line. He did that life for a while, but so I kind of know a little bit about, you know, what it entails and the this, you know, the motion you're going through all day, you know, that kind of thing, and then, you know, everything involving that kind of stuff. But there's that. But I mean, I kind of want to talk a little bit about now that I kind of we talked about some of the stuff that I think, you know, you really wanted to get out there, especially about, you know, being a male rhythmic gymnast. And you said you applied for USAG. What is that? I know what it implies for if I did it. Like if I applied, pretty much I've had to have USAG certified and safety certification and go through that because I had to teach in a gym. And if you're USAG certified gym, then you have to have USAG safety certification and all that kind of stuff along the board, right? If you want to be that kind, especially if you want to compete in their competition or part of their anything involving that kind of stuff. So where does this fall for you?
You know, I am a very spiritual person. It's fine if you're not. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to change my perspectives or change my point of view.
Well, define spirituality. I mean, that's really, for you, what does it mean?
I follow signs. I follow little like whispers that I see, and it helps guide me through life. And that's what I consider God and spirituality. Is just little signs. Okay. It's not a book. It's not religion. It's just like a calling. I don't know. It's little things. So I was like, I want to teach rhythmic gymnastics. I maybe want to do that. And somebody said I should apply for USAG, which is basically a membership for the United States Association of Gymnastics, I believe.
I think I remember.
Whatever it is. Because like you said, in order to be a coach, you need to be certified.
It's a pretty easy test.
Yeah, and I had realized if I want to teach rhythmic gymnastics, I do not have to wait until a gym accepts me and be certified and play by their rules to get the feeling that I would get from teaching gymnastics. I could just get a bunch of neighborhood kids with their parents and teach them a couple of tricks. It's the same thing. It's the same feeling for me.
Honestly, that's how most gyms get. A lot of gyms, you know how they start? They start by someone bringing a panel mat to a YMCA.
Right.
And you start working with there. And everyone's like, oh, we don't have that here. Everyone starts flocking to that spot to go do that. And then the next year, you have the budget to get more mats. And the next year, you have a budget to rent the space out. And that's honestly how places like that happen all the time. You don't have to go to some place that's well established,
And that's the hurdle and the facade is that when I get this, I will be able to do that. It doesn't work like that. You gotta just make it happen now with what you got, and then it's your passion and your calling that's driving you to do it, and then everything else falls into place.
For a very long time myself, I said, when I have this, I'll do this. And the thing is that you probably might never have that, and so it's you have to do with what you got right there, and that's one thing I love about third world countries. Is that they're not going to wait till they get something to do something. They're going to do whatever they possibly can right there and then to do it.
Right.
And some of it's luck, and some of it is maybe a little bit of like actually having the intelligence to listen and do that, which it takes. And that is something entirely of itself. Having the intelligence to listen and critique yourself. But yeah, I waited a long time for that myself. So
here's how my brain is winding that I'm aware that it's happening. I'm like, okay, I want to teach rhythmic gymnastics. How much is it going to pay me? What is my life going to look like? What is my apartment or house situation going to look like off of that salary? I haven't even taught a class. I don't even know if I like it. I don't even know what it feels like. And yet, I'm setting myself up with all these expectations and all these constraints.
You're thinking like, kind of follow the rules. But, I was talking with my wife the other day. I said, I'd like to get him to come in and teach a prop class for fun, for some of the girls there at that area. And for me too, everybody.
Yeah.
And then he was saying, well, I've never taught a big class before. I teach you two first to see what it's like. And I was like, what got me to be a good teacher is I just showed up and tried to teach. And then, you know what? They can tell you. The good thing, you'd be in an atmosphere where you'd get honest, loving critique. So that's the thing, is like, I know you'd want to do a good job straight out the bat because you're passionate about this, but it's also just show up and give us what you got.
When I told you that last week is not where I'm at mentally now.
What he needs today is what he needs today.
Because something unlocked yesterday when I was practicing in the gym. I was recording myself. I did not understand the value that I had. I did not understand that just because I'm self-taught doesn't mean I have a lot to offer. And I subconsciously needed somebody to tell me, oh, that's how it's supposed to be done, for me to feel validated. And I was like, actually, I have been teaching hair workshops for tons of working artists. I've been a public speaker, had my own business, I've done all these things. This is really easy.
Yeah, it's called scaffolding. When you you take something you already know and then you apply something else on top of it.
Scaffolding. I love that.
It's a term used for like when you're trying to teach a kid something new. It's like, how can you relate it to the thing they already know?
It all relates to value and self-value. And this is like such a huge, I'm gonna wave my hands in the air so if you're scrolling through this you see, because you stop. Somebody told me, if you want to be some sort of teacher or coach or whatever, God to a 4th grader is a 5th grader. So just teach 4th graders and below. Don't worry about high school kids. Don't worry about college kids. Just teach someone who's you're one step ahead of. And I was like, oh my God. It takes silence and stillness to be able to hear your higher self telling you what that is.
Yeah, especially when voices are in there telling you all kinds of other things.
All sorts of bullshit.
Yeah.
All sorts of craziness. And the thing about, I've noticed, because I'm so creative, people always say, I wish I was talented. I wish I was talented. The difference between me and the person that might be watching that says, I wish I was an artist, I wish I was talented, is that I believe I'm an artist. That's the only difference. Because we're all creative human beings that have the same access to the creativity. Why is it possible that somebody can do a painting with a red dot, sell it for a lot of money? That's their art. Because they believe that's what they have to share. For people that are like, maybe might be older, you know, like, or had surgeries or retired, and they're like, I used to be a dancer, I wish I was a dancer. What parts of your body can you still move? You can still move your arms, your fingers. Doesn't have to be your perception of how you view movement and what is your definition.
If I can't do this, I am not a dancer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, like I always say, like, if God forbid I'm in a wheelchair, I'll be the most amazing wheelchair dancer ever. Like how, you know, that's.
Yeah.
I need to continue. I need every day. I need to enrich my soul with those types of videos, with those types of people, with those types of content per se, because I need that as gasoline, as fuel.
When I went to school for modern dance, I went to ASU for dance, and I went to the modern dance program there. I did ballet too. Ballet was the hardest thing I had to do because I'm just not really built for it. I have thick ankles. Yeah, exactly. My point is, I mean, trust me, we've tried, and my ankles are built for impact. You know, like, and you know, and it's like I'm a little stocky. You know, I try to say I'm a tree trunk trying to be bamboo. I'm a redwood trying to be bamboo. You know, but it's what I noticed there, okay, was that afterward it's like, well, someone's like, well, you went to school for dance and you spent, you know, $40,000 or whatever for that, and now you're in debt. And I'm like, you know, I was happy for every dollar I spent on that thing, because, and I was very happy because I was around scholarly people that gave a damn about, you know, a process, and they would push you to think deeper on your process, you know, and they cared enough about you as a student, as a person, to say, you need to look deeper into this.
Right.
And not just be like, okay, yeah, that's good, and then move on, right? So that's one thing that people don't understand about, that I got from going to college or in a scholarly program, is that people there said, this person, I'm going to tell this person exactly how to improve or how to look back on those things. Right?
Yeah.
And I think what I'm trying to relate this to is that if you said, you know, I am an artist, right? Mm-hmm. Or like, and so you having those constantly going in and seeing what is deeper about this ball, what is deeper about, you know, these moves that I'm doing, what is deep about this hand wave,
right?
You know, those are, I think, all things that are like saying like, well, I needed that, you know, right. And I think I attribute a lot of that to how I became a successful teacher in parkour and some other things. It's because they helped me grow in that area.
Absolutely.
You know? So.
And my viewpoint of money is shifting. It has shifted. I've read a lot of books.
Yeah, was that one book you sent me a picture last night?
It's called The Illusion of Money by Kyle Cease.
Okay.
It's an incredible book that's helping me a ton. And basically, in a nutshell, he describes money as being an illusion. The book has very little to do with money. It has all to do with perception. Mm-hmm. And the sense of security that you get with having money is not real. Because it's a preoccupation of my mind for something to latch onto so I feel secure.
Yeah.
Because once I get that money, now I'm afraid of spiders. Now I'm afraid of the monster in the closet. Now I'm afraid of like terrorism.
But what is money? It's an object that we put, that we have decided is showing that I did this much work, so this is something to show I did this much work,
Yeah.
and therefore you're giving me something for this work that I did. You know,
Right.
that's all it is.
It's just an exchange of energy.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And it's what's the point of having money if you have food and shelter, community, art, you know, like
Yeah, I mean,
music, like what exactly is money? And for people that say like, oh, I need money in order to do things, you don't, because most everything that I do, I taught myself. I looked on, there's tons of stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
There's tons of stuff everywhere.
The information age is true. If you can weed through the bullshit of everything of things that go on, and you know, you can still teach yourself physics. I mean, like high level physics.
Right.
You know, you can do all that stuff. You need drive.
Right.
You need drive, and you know, to do that. But it's all out there now. It all is. I mean,
speaking of drive, that's important to figure out. What is the why? Why am I working? Why am I moving? Why am I, like, why?
Rafe Kelly, you're gonna like this one.
Like, why? For me, it's evolved over the years. I only was a celebrity red carpet hairstylist because I needed to get to that level to get my parents' approval. I had no idea what was happening subconsciously.
Yeah.
So I turned myself inside out. It was only until I was like on a private jet with Mariah Carey that my mother and father were like, oh, okay, you're doing something with your life. Not that they don't love me, it's just the way that they're conditioned.
Yeah.
I actually, deep down inside, didn't want to do any of that. I didn't like any of those people. I didn't like doing hair. I was just good at it, and I just...
Are they first, second generation Japanese American?
They're my father's first generation. My mom is third generation.
Okay.
But you know, they came from an age where you just worked, had a house, had a family, had savings, 401k. There was no access about what does my spirit want.
Save face.
Yeah, like you don't say what you feel, you don't say what you really want, you don't, like everything that is about self-expression is considered as being deviant and combative.
Yeah.
So, I guess now I'm asking myself, why? Why am I doing rhythmic gymnastics again? Why am I training handstands? Why am I trying to dance? And the reason is, that I've discovered in the last, few weeks is I feel the presence of whatever God is there when it's happening. I feel an otherworldly feeling that I cannot describe, and I need to keep myself very, very much in check so it does not turn into addiction.
Yeah, I think I was messaging you about that last night, was that you're in a certain place right now where you're open at the floodgates, and so you're very receptive to everything going on.
Yeah.
You're also in a very vulnerable position because this is what typically happens with people that, they say, okay, I'm going to go find myself.
Yeah.
And they meet somebody that's just very charismatic, and they're able to, and that person gives you this whole thought process and ideas that this person's thought about it for a long time, and you suddenly are like, this person's so right, everything they're saying is right, but then you end up becoming almost like a slave to that person's thing. So,
yeah.
And then that's where addiction kind of comes into play, right? Because you're addicted to that and want to go into that. And so I think what I'm drawing from that is that you're being smart about this. You're saying I'm letting the floodgates, you're letting the floodgates open. You're letting everything in, but you're also being careful as to not let that also overtake you, because it's the idea of chaos and order, and that little bit of order means chaos, a little bit of chaos means order.
I feel like my life is very simple right now, and
It's great.
not full of a ton of distractions, so I can see the red flags as they come. Right now, I know my relationship with Instagram is not healthy. I am posting things right after I do them. I look at comments. I look at likes. I am trying to gain some sort of validation off of what I'm doing with a community that I did not belong to before.
Yeah.
So my advice to anybody who is like doing work, tricks and stuff, if you maybe try to post what you did today 2 weeks from now, give it some incubation period where you just celebrate it for yourself. It helps that weirdness happen. It like detaches it from like, I'm gonna post this now, and then you're like, did I get likes? Like, it's weird that I woke up and I was like, why is this happening? I can't believe that I'm like got sucked into that, and it happens real quick. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a huge conversation we can have about that kind of thing. I mean, myself, when I got back from, and I'm very aware of the dopamine drip you get from it, from that kind of thing.
It feels so good.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is something I try to tell people. I'm like, so when I would fall asleep at night, okay, I can tell when I'm about to fall asleep, because literally this thing goes off, and I try to ask people, what is this thing? And people scientifically said, oh, it's just flashes of light and crap that you deal with when you're about to fall asleep. Or your brain trying to like interpret what is it, these flashes of light, and you can't because your eyes are closed, But when I'm about to fall asleep, I see this like, almost like a wave of, the best way to explain it is if you looked at the surface of like water, and then you see a droplet on the water and you get like this ripple effect outward. I kind of get that little like wave effect, like right before we're about to fall asleep, and I feel like it's like a chemical, like or like a brain wave or something that's just like it's like you just passed into that zone. Or another way to explain it is if you took a little bit of dye and dropped it into clear water and you saw it go and like spread outward. Like I'm aware that those things tend to happen, and I'm like and that can happen on any level of chemical, like of caffeine. Or anything like that. I'm very aware, or like even just eating fat, if I'm like really like tired and angry and I eat like some like Greek yogurt and then suddenly that good fat and then the hormones you get from that, like I'm very aware of all those things, and I think that's all very related because of the state you're going into, nervous system wise. What I'm trying to get to with that was that you were talking about I said dopamine drip along with the phone, right? What I'm trying to get to with that was there was this period where I was starting to, I said, okay, I'm not going to look at my phone first thing waking up.
Yeah.
I say, okay, I turn my alarm off.
So hard.
I turn my alarm off. I go take my damn shower.
Yeah.
Then I get things ready. And then if I have time, I'll look at my phone before I leave, right? But by doing that in the morning, it actually helped quite a lot, And trying to also not look at it before going to sleep, that kind of thing, like an hour or so before going to sleep. It's very difficult. I'm not successful at it, 100% rate here. But it's something that has been quite helpful.
Yeah.
And also when I got back from the retreat that I went to in Washington, I was like, when I got back and my phone, because I had no service, so I was like, I went dark for 2 weeks, practically, And then when I got back, it was like, like that, and I was like, shit, and I literally put it under a pillow and was like, I felt like an ape when it like Space Odyssey 2001.
Yeah.
And like they see that big wall and they're like, yeah, exactly. And like that's what I felt like with it. It was like, what is this thing? It's another object from outer space. So I put it back underneath it. But yeah, it's a foreign object to like what we are as humans, And so I think what I was trying to get to with all that was just that it's weird how we have put so much into that thing,
I don't exactly know where I'm at with technology, like inside how I feel about it, because it's so much stimulation that I didn't realize that I was experiencing. I don't know. I think I'm trying to go a little bit backwards towards the 90s of how it was when I was a kid.
And I think that's smart, and I think that's more genuine, and it's difficult to do that when you do have a phone that has notifications and stuff. You can turn all that off, but
Here's the thing. When you decide to take your life in a certain direction, you realize everybody else is going another direction. It's an extremely lonely place to go through. And somebody told me, one of my spiritual mentors that I had done ayahuasca with, he said, the personal journey to growth is a dark tunnel that is only big enough to fit yourself. And I was like, it is so true. Along the way, I'll find like-minded people, but I need to go through it myself. I need to do the work to go through the tunnel, and the only way is through. Once you go forward, you can't go back. And it doesn't matter.
I would think it would put you into severe depression if you went back. Because especially if you talked about anything involving natural psychedelics, and that they're a way to break past all the layers really fast and let you see who you really are immediately. When you kind of know who that person really is now, all right, and how you see everything in a truer form, then it's a lie to yourself to go against.
It is.
Yeah, and that's nothing's worse than knowing you're lying to yourself.
Yeah, and that's an incredibly uncomfortable feeling when you're like, oh my God, I am, my soul, my spirit actually wants to do this, but I have so much personal resistance because I'm shamed, I have regret, X, Y, or Z, whatever reason that's holding you back, and you know that person is there, and you can't access it. That is addiction and depression. And it sucks. But what a great, this whole journey has been super incredible. If you would have asked me last year if I would have been doing rhythmic gymnastics and having this conversation, I would have said there is no way that it would have happened. Because to give you a little bit of perspective, 6 months ago I went to go see a doctor in Washington because Western medicine had no answers for me, so I took science from the universe and I found a naturopath in Washington. When I was in Washington, I got the spark and inspiration, maybe there's something there about shame and rhythmic gymnastics and dance. I want to investigate this. Yeah. So I bought some new props. I actually got all black props because I wanted to be able to do it so nobody would see it. So I would call my friend.
You're a ninja rhythm.
No, I would call my friend and I'd be like, I'm in the bushes right now, I'm really uncomfortable with my ribbon. On the beach, nobody's there. Nobody's there. And I'm twirling this thing and I'm so full of shame. My mind could not process it, but I knew I had to get over it because I'm my health is at stake. I need to get over this emotional bullshit. And I kept pressing and pressing and pressing. And it finally happened last week. It happened in little stages, but instead of me practicing and saying, oh my God, what are people gonna think? They're gonna think I'm a faggot. They're gonna think what is this guy doing? All those childhood things that came up. Something happened and I was you know what? I'm actually giving somebody the opportunity to see something that they don't see every day. That dynamic shift. Not I'm the shit, but it just shifted from them judging me to being no, this is me and this is what I have to share. And I only got there because I went through that little tunnel. It was not easy. It was, and me and my friend always joke because now all my props are gold and I'm how can I be more seen with these props? How can the color be more obnoxious so everybody can see it? Yeah. And when 6 months ago, everything was black.
Yeah, if you want people to see, you want them to see who you really are. And,
right.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing. And when I I had a choice of whether I could go into teaching dance in schools, public schools, or not. And I decided not to do it because I felt like I would be dealing with so much stigma of people thinking that I was something that I was not, and I would have to be that thing in order for it to be okay.
Right.
So to not give it any specific thing, I was well, I'm a straight male and I'm a dancer, and it has nothing to do with. I wouldn't feel shame or anything like that if I was a gay male or anything like that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't feel that, but I want people to know me for who I really am.
Right.
I don't want the people to think, oh, he must be this in order for this to be okay.
Right.
That's I think where I think the line is drawn. It has nothing to do with what you prefer sexually or not. It has to do more with, are people seeing you for who you are, or are they juxtaposing, there's that word again, on this other thing on you for them to think that it is okay for them to be like that.
It's mental conditioning, and it's based off of society, and it's crazy because now I find myself on the opposite side of polarity when I'm outside and I'm practicing. Am I doing this for me, or am I doing this so other people see me?
Yeah.
Like, it's the complete opposite of where I was 6 months ago.
I think it's pretty prevalent when you don't, if you're not out there with a sign saying, I'm a rhythmic gymnast, if you're just out there and you're doing your thing,
right,
then I think you're doing it for you. I honestly do. I mean, there's no reason, like, especially with parkour athletes, some guys, we love posting video footage. I mean, it is one of our things. It's just our way of sharing with other parkour athletes, what we're doing. It's a very deep part of parkour culture and freerunning culture to videotape what you're doing. Originally, it was to watch yourself and learn from yourself.
Right.
Before maybe you'd post like 1-2 videos a year, but now you can do it like every day.
Right.
But like if I'm out in the middle of this park and I'm jumping off this wall and no one else is in this park.
Yes.
I don't have an audience.
Yes.
At the moment, like I don't have that. No one's there at that moment, and I'm jumping off this wall and doing a front flip and I'm twisting and landing on this mat. I'm doing that for myself.
Yes.
I did it for myself. And the enjoyment of completing that and being part of that, and and engaging with the surroundings.
Would you say that doing it for yourself is something that you had to develop?
No, for me, no.
It was always. It was always like that.
For me, I did. No, I'm very specific. I've always been that like guy in the corner that would just do whatever I wanted,
Right.
But I mean, I actually had to deal with some issues with that the past like 7 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm back to where I think I was originally, and part of it was leaving the place I worked at for 10 years,
mm-hmm.
And it was, and that's a whole other story. But I definitely for the longest time I feel like I definitely did most of the things for myself, because before I was a very late person to the smartphone thing as well. Like when I was in school, like when I had a pager when people had cell phones, when kids were bringing cell phones to school, I had a pager. When people got smartphones, I had a flip phone. When I got my first smartphone, everyone had a higher level smartphone. Now I'm kind of part of it. I'm very well integrated into that whole thing.
Yeah.
But I've always been kind of later in that game. So for the bigger part of my development as a person, I had nothing to do with that.
Right.
Right. And it wasn't until like recently that I'm doing that, and I think of it now more as a way for me to. It's an unsafe way to do this because I might lose everything at once because of this. When I say it like that, I mean like on my video. But it's a way for me to have a backlog of all the things I've done,
mm-hmm.
and be able to look back at that. And there's a lot of times that I look back on stuff I did, like, when I was working, why was I successful with that particular movement before? I go back and I watch the video like 100 times to see like what am I doing there? What am I doing here? Oh, it looks like I've lost a lot of range of motion in my hips. I definitely have to bring that back because that's why this move was so much easier at this time. Mm-hmm. So I use it more as like a researching tool. I found that out because I made these vlogs for like a year where I like just taped every rep, mm-hmm. and I put it out there. Very boring to watch if you're not someone that is into that kind of thing. but that's one of the reasons why like I have 600 videos on my YouTube channel, because like a good 300 of them are just my daily vlogs or weekly vlogs of me doing stuff. And that's research.
Right.
That's people want that stuff actually. Researchers want that stuff, but very particular type. And so I use this more as a way to backlog things. I'm trying to use it now in a different way, because I realize that I could, but I also don't want to lose the fun, the joy I have of daily doing stuff, that I enjoy doing by going too deep into that. So, just so long-winded answer to the question you had. Do I feel like I'm doing stuff every single, like, do I do it for myself? I definitely feel like I do it for myself.
I just got an aha moment. Me and you have a very different relationship between movement because my background comes from a sport that's judged. There is a way gymnastics is supposed to look. There is a way dance, ballet is supposed to look.
Yeah.
And every day I need to crush that mindset of what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because your legs don't have to be completely straight. Your form doesn't have to be incredible. If you want to do ballet and like you're a block.
You've watched the 1930s like videos of gymnastics and everything before, right? When it was all black and white.
Yes.
Yes, and you saw how like there was less emphasis on that. There was still a bit of it on there.
Gold medals with bent legs, terrible form.
Yeah.
Living their best life.
Yeah.
So why am I in this pursuit of what is perfection? It's something that's awakening like right now as I speak.
But it's also one of the reasons, and here's the thing, is there's two, this is something I've had to deal with too, is that when you're looking at how am I able to do these things, like you said, you didn't realize you're such a good dancer or mover, you know? Well, because your hardware suffering right now. I know that's your joints, everything on your body. Your hardware suffering, but you have the software because you worked on that stuff a long time ago. So those are deep, neurological pathways that are deep inside you that are already there. So you have deeply rooted software, you know. And so that did help you kind of. Once you were able to free your mind, you were able to bring that out quite quickly.
I love the hardware and software analogy.
That's Kelly Starrett and Ryan Ford originally told me that at one of his seminars for Apex Movement, and then Kelly Starrett, I think, is where you learned that from. And just going to give credit where credit's due, that's all.
The funny thing is that my hardware is suffering my joints, my body, because it's the 26 years that I did not move my body, all that stuck energy and wanting to move is coming out. My health is improving exponentially every day because I am accepting that I'm a dancer, I'm accepting that I'm a performer, I'm accepting that I'm a rhythmic gymnast, I'm accepting that I am satisfied with the things that I can do, and that's the reason why I associate my body going rapidly downhill, because it was all that stuck energy.
So you feel like things are going, so do you feel like you're going downhill because your body can't handle? Oh, you work.
I worked.
Okay, sorry, I thought you meant
No.
Okay.
Every trick, every movement, I feel like it's a little bit of inflammation that's being removed.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the opposite.
Good.
So it's actually unbelievable. And that's why people say that dance and yoga, XYZ has been therapy and helped them heal.
Well, movement is medicine. Regardless of what you want, movement is medicine.
Yeah,
you know?
I did not look at it like that.
Yeah, it's something that people are looking at way more now, than they did in the past. But if you look at us as we are biologically, okay, and even just maybe if you want to think spiritually or our connection with nature and moving around to it, right? If you again, one of Dr. Kelly Starrett's thing, coming Supple Lepers deal is that our joints in our body are made pretty much to last to 110, 120 years. They are made for that.
Wow.
But if we're not nourishing those things the way they were meant to be nourished on a daily basis, foraging for food, engaging in cultural dance, sex, everything, all that kind of stuff is part of what makes us move so well.
Right. Right.
It's like, if we're not doing that, then technically you're just letting what should be a well lubricated piece of machinery, and I don't like to use the word machinery because we're not machines, but you're not letting that move the way it was. What's it going to do? It's going to rust. It's going to calcify. It's going to become.
Exactly.
What's that word? Fused into a position, right? And it's not just fused with. Now it's not just fused with your biology.
Yeah.
It's fused also with your psychology as well.
I know.
And so those are two things that are very deeply rooted into each other.
It's so true. And what I'm doing now, I woke up and I realized my value system of my priorities was wrong. I put money first. I put my job second. I put my partner, sex. Then I put my friends. Then I put my family, and then I put myself. That is what I was operating on for 36 years on this earth. Now I had to demolition that. It was very painful. I had to tear that house down so I can restack it. So my value system now is me and my connection with the universe, my family and friends, what I want to share with the world, and then comes money. And I'm learning this as I go, so it might be different tomorrow. That's where I'm at today.
Well, it's like I said, Daven tomorrow needs what Daven needs tomorrow. Daven today needs what Daven needs today.
Exactly.
And it's that's something I've actually had to learn. That's what's probably made my relationship with my wife like better in like a lot of things.
Yeah.
I had to realize my daily needs and her daily needs are going to be very separate, and you cannot categorize what somebody needs on a daily, on a whole basis based on one situation. You got to look at it what they need daily, you know. And it's hard because it's like your brain wants to simplify it,
Yeah.
you know, to make it easier.
Yeah.
But that unfortunately is not the case of what's going on.
Right.
You know. So what David needs tomorrow is what David needs tomorrow.
Like, I mean, I might have been on tour with Mariah Carey and Adele and been on red carpets and X, Y, Z. I have not had a partner in 12 years. So what everyone perceives is not really the reality. And I still am not ready because I am not ready to be able to treat somebody how I want to be treated because I'm not exactly treating myself like that yet. It's happening exponentially every day.
You know, that's a very wise thing to say, because that's something I think I've wrapped up in myself when I'm saying, if I'm mad at somebody because they're not treating me the way I'm treating them, you know, it's because that person hasn't figured out how to treat themselves yet.
Yeah.
That's some noise words right there.
Yeah. And, you know, I want everyone to take this however you take it, but you got to be real careful of who you surround yourself with. And it sucks sometimes. Because
I think it's a very Anglo-Saxon Christian value of people to put up with or to tolerate people that are very, I don't really like to use the word toxic, but definitely are not good to necessarily have around. You think of it as a necessary evil, like people do this with, like, sometimes with, you know, aunts and uncles or things like that, where they're like, oh, they're part of the family, I have to do this.
Yeah.
You know, and part of me, the way I've learned to deal with that is I just liven up the atmosphere if I need to. If I think this person is dull, it's crap, and they're just like,
I love that.
You know, I'll make the conversation interesting, right?
Yeah.
I'll find a way to make it interesting so that it's not, and that way that doesn't become, my mind doesn't go there, you know?
I love
but
that.
because I know there's some people definitely that I've met that I'm just like, this person's a drag, you know? And, you know, and it's not because I'm being a dick about it,
Yeah.
it's because the person is a drag. They're like, you know, it's like, what I'm trying to get to with that was that when you said, you know, people, you have to take this very carefully, because some of it is looking at yourself and saying, is there a way that, there's this quote somebody says, Mahatma Gandhi, I don't know if he said that or not, he said, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change yourself. You know? Yeah. You know? And so oftentimes I try to change it first,
yeah,
you know, to see if it works out, and if it doesn't, then I have to say, okay, well then I have to go in and say, change myself and do that. And so and there's more to that, more layers to it, but I think that when you say that, you know, be careful with that, it is true, you have to be careful with it. You have to take a time in silence to think, several out, you know, for a while, to get all the nonsense out there and say, what is it I truly feel about this person? Is there a way that I can keep this relationship? If not, if it's not healthy for me, let it go. Yeah.
There's a quote, I forget who it's from, but it is something along the lines like, the degree in which a woman can change is parallel to that of the truth that they can see in themselves without running away. Something of that nature. And I'm an extremely judgmental person. All I do is judge people.
That's a human quality, man. That's fine. That's fine. That's a human quality. We would not have survived as a species if we didn't judge people. I'm sorry. It's people take way too much on that. Like, oh, don't be judgmental. It's like, you're all judgmental, assholes. You know, it's like it's important. You judge a book by its cover. Why? Because if you didn't, well, then typically in some situations, if someone's coming down the street and they look intimidating, it's because that might be the case. Now,
that's very true.
You know, it might be the case. People cross. When I used to be Mr. B-Boy, and I wore a beanie, and I had my pant leg rolled up, and I was all hip-hopped out, you know, sleeve cut off, whatever, you know, that's a B-Boy thing. All B-Boys are like, yeah, B-Boy, that's a B-Boy thing. But everyone else is like, what is this weird guy? You know, and I'm walking down the street, they'll cross the street to get away from me. I look intimidating, you know, but you come talk to me, and I'm like just this weird guy, you know? It's like, so that's one thing that we have the ability to do, is sit down, long conversation format style, and get down to the nitty gritty of what this is about. Right? Yeah. So someone sees you with they're like, oh, he's a Yakuza, he's all tatted out. You know, it's like something like that. You know, but
speaking of tattoos, I'm working on my relationship with them because when I got them, I was in the mindset of that I needed to look a certain way. that I needed to.
This is typical for your field?
Yeah, I guess.
I must look like an artist to be an artist.
Kind of. And I didn't understand the amount of toxic ink I was putting in my body.
Do you think that's a big part of it?
For sure.
Is there non-toxic tattoo ink?
Well, the thing is that every time that they go with the needle, your body is like, what the fuck are you doing? Did you get in an accident?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're breaking the skin.
I didn't put that 2 and 2 together. I actually had to do a long apology ceremony to my body of what trauma I put myself through in getting tattoos. And it's
interesting.
It's interesting. It's really, really interesting when you peel back the layers and you're like, why the fuck did I get that in the first place? And it's not like, oh, like now I'm stuck with it, blah, 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 because this life is real quick. It doesn't, it's all good.
You look at the, you know, how long humans been around. It's a blink of an eye compared to how long life has been around. It's a blink of an eye to consider how long rocks have been around.
Absolutely.
You know? So it's over quick then.
Yeah. So when people are like, oh my god, they like, the first thing they do is like, they talk about my tattoos. I'm like, ah!
Yeah.
It's kind of like very personal. It's like a lot of my grandma's favorite flowers and just like, I'm on the way to loving myself in every way. And I think movement and accepting your movement, loving your movement for where you're at is like the growth and the work that needs to happen constantly as a human being. It's really weird and really tough. And it's so easy to go to a 9-to-5, feel like you're secure, and not take the risks. I've been there. I've been there for so many years, and
some people they want it. Some people want it and they love it. You know.
Some people are great at it.
Yeah.
I know that I drown in that environment, and I had to accept that in myself, and that was not easy. It was kind of like every day I would go, I'd be like, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be here, and I'm just constantly banging my head against the wall. That doesn't happen for everybody. And if you're one of those people that has a 9-to-5 and you're totally fine, like that's great. You know, I just know I'm not like that. So I need to do the work to figure out how I'm gonna make this work. You know, like I'm gonna be out of this place in December and I have no answers. I have no idea where I'm gonna go, and I'm totally okay with that.
You said that's when your money runs out, or that's when the lease ends up?
That's when the lease ends up. And then, you know, like, in terms of money, I just need to, I want to, the amount of money that I have and what I want to do should not be a factor. I need to figure out what I want to do and then figure out how to make the money that I have work.
Okay. Let's take a quick break right there, go to the restroom, and then we can kind of come back to it, because I think that's a good place to start at. I need to go to the restroom anyway. It's like 2 cups, I had 3 cups of coffee. And
I definitely, now that I've taken this break and I have the opportunity of not working, I'm trying to see how I can be of service.
Okay.
And not how can I make money.
Yes.
Because regardless if my savings is gonna run out, which is inevitable, but I want to be like rich inside and not need external situations that come. I want to be so rich inside that every dollar that comes is like icing on the cake. And that's what I'm working towards right now.
Yeah.
And it's very challenging. It challenges everything I've ever believed.
Well, I mean, I think it's great to say I want to be of service, because, you know, if you're using the things that you value to help other people, then you're always doing what you love to do, right? And that's an important thing, and that's very tribal. That's how tribes originally work, and that's another thing we're having an issue with right now is in modern day society, is that people are trying to be too similar, and they're not pursuing enough of what their talents specifically are, what they've kind of like naturally veered toward, you know?
It's a lonely path. It's a lonely path to follow your calling.
But it's necessary.
It's so necessary.
Because like I said, in a tribal atmosphere, this is what I'm trying to get at with this. And there's some great resources out there. Sebastian Younger, he wrote this book called Tribe, and also he did a documentary called Restrepo. And what Restrepo, these all have their own little pathways that we look at, but Tribe basically talks about people in the military and why they make platoons a very small amount of people, because you're relying on everybody for their specialty. And so if you better love that person and love what that person does, or at least respect what that person does, because you're going to depend on their life, your life for that person. Right? And I think that, especially with creativity in the arts and performance, which is way more important than people realize, especially for like, if you're going to ever have to talk in front of a huge crowd of people, or you're going to have to do anything involving a presentation, knowing how to be a performer is going to make that so much. You're still going to probably be nervous, but it's going to make it easier and come off a lot better. You know, so acting and everything, and this is, in my opinion, a part of that. You know, performing and acting. This is all very together.
Of course.
And if you want to put it into a bubble, that's performing, acting, theater. But the tribe, right? So the best thing you could possibly do, if you don't feel you fit into the structure of a 9 to 5, and I don't think they have their own version of tribe or whatever too, but is to see where is there a need for the thing that you value the most, right? And if you go there and do that there, right, then you're actually being a part of that tribe. You are contributing to that tribe. If there's too many people that do what you do, right, then you're no longer necessary. That is where we lose meaning. You know, and that's where I think a lot of people feel like, okay, well, I can be replaced easily, that kind of thing, right? And that doesn't feel that great. It can feel good if you want to get away from that, because you know, like, okay, I don't have to worry about causing any drama here, they can replace me really easily, that kind of thing. But if you're trying to look for a place where you actually belong, and that you can say, okay, I am needed here. It feels good to be needed. People sometimes think that, like, oh, that's, you know, that's not, it's not good to feel like you have to be necessary or things like that. And then I'm like, well, no, it is good to feel like you're necessary, because if you feel like what you're doing matters, you're going to do it better.
Absolutely.
You know?
I mean, that's why I crashed and burned in the hair and makeup industry, was that I always knew I was replaceable. And in order for me to set myself apart, I needed to act in ways that were not necessarily me. I had to be more than what was just me, being relaxed. And I can definitely say there are not many rhythmic gymnasts, let alone male rhythmic gymnasts. Anywhere. Maybe in Spain, there's a bunch of them in Japan.
I want to get back to that. We could go towards so many ways. My grandfather actually owned a hair salon. My uncle owned a hair salon called the Jonathan Caban Hair Salon, and I think I told you about that a little bit.
I think so.
In California. He like supported all the local bands and did all their hair and you know, and everything along that kind of line. He did that life for a while, but so I kind of know a little bit about, you know, what it entails and the this, you know, the motion you're going through all day, you know, that kind of thing, and then, you know, everything involving that kind of stuff. But there's that. But I mean, I kind of want to talk a little bit about now that I kind of we talked about some of the stuff that I think, you know, you really want to get out there, especially about, you know, being a male rhythmic gymnast. And you said you applied for USAG. What is that? I know what it implies for if I did it. Like if I applied, pretty much I've had to have USAG certified and safety certification and go through that, because I had to teach in a gym. If you're USAG certified gym, then you have to have USAG safety certification and all that kind of stuff along the board, right? If you want to be that, especially if you want to compete in their competition or part of their anything involving that kind of stuff. So where does this fall for you?
You know, I am a very spiritual person. It's fine if you're not. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to change my perspectives or change my point of view.
Well, define spirituality. I mean, that's really, for you, what does it mean?
I follow signs. I follow little like whispers that I see, and it helps guide me through life. And that's what I consider God and spirituality. It's just little signs. It's not a book. It's not religion. It's just like a calling. Like, I don't know. It's little things. So I was like, I want to teach rhythmic gymnastics. I maybe want to do that. And somebody said I should applied for USAG, which is basically a membership for the United States Association of Gymnastics, I believe.
I think I remember.
Whatever it is. Because, like you said, in order to be a coach, you need to be certified.
It's a pretty easy test.
Yeah. You know, and I had realized if I want to teach rhythmic gymnastics, I do not have to wait until a gym accepts me and be certified and play by their rules to get the feeling that I would get from teaching gymnastics. I could just get a bunch of neighborhood kids with their parents and teach them a couple tricks. It's the same thing. It's the same feeling for me.
Honestly, that's how most gyms get. A lot of gyms, you know how they start? They start by someone bringing a panel mat to a YMCA.
Right.
And you start working with there. And everyone's like, oh, we don't have that here. Everyone starts flocking to that spot to go do that. And then the next year, you have the budget to get more mats. And the next year, you have the budget to rent space out. And that's honestly how places like that happen all the time. You don't have to go to some place that's well established, you know?
And that's the hurdle and the facade is that when I get this, I will be able to do that. It doesn't work like that. You gotta just make it happen now with what you got, and then it's your passion and your calling that's driving you to do it, and then everything else falls into place.
For a very long time myself, I said, you know, when I have this, I'll do this. You know, and the thing is that you probably might never have that, you know, and so you have to do with what you got right there, because that's one thing I love about third world countries is that they're not going to wait till they get something to do something. They're going to do whatever they possibly can right there and then to do it.
Right.
You know, and some of it's luck, and some of it is, you know, maybe a little bit of like actually having the intelligence to listen and to do that, which it takes, and that is something entirely of itself. Having the intelligence to listen and critique yourself. But yeah, I waited a long time for that myself. So
here's how my brain is winding that I'm aware that it's happening. I'm like, okay, I want to teach rhythmic gymnastics. How much is it going to pay me? What is my life going to look like? What is my apartment or house situation going to look like off of that salary? I haven't even taught a class. I don't even know if I like it. I don't even know what it feels like. And yet, I'm setting myself up with all these expectations and all these constraints.
You're thinking like, kind of follow the rules. But, you know, I was talking with my wife the other day. I said, I'd like to get him to come in and teach a prop class for fun, you know, for some of the girls there at that area. And for me too, you know, everybody. Yeah. And then he was saying, well, you know, I've never taught a big class before. I teach you two first to see what it's like. And I was like, you know what got me to be a good teacher is that I just showed up and tried to teach. And then, you know what, they can tell you. The good thing, you'd be in an atmosphere where you'd get honest, loving critique. So that's the thing, is like, I know you'd want to do a good job straight out the bat because you're passionate about this, you know, but it's also just show up and give us what you got.
When I told you that last week is not where I'm at mentally now.
What he needs today is what he needs today.
Because something unlocked yesterday when I was practicing in the gym. I was recording myself. I did not understand the value that I had. I did not understand that just because I'm self-taught doesn't mean I have a lot to offer. And I subconsciously needed somebody to tell me, oh, that's how it's supposed to be done, for me to feel validated. And I was like, actually, I have been teaching hair workshops for tons of like working artists. I've been a public speaker. Had my own business. I've done all these things. This is really easy.
Yeah, it's called scaffolding. When you take something you already know and then you apply something else on top.
Scaffolding. I love that.
It's a term used for like when you're trying to teach a kid something new. It's like, how can you relate it to the thing they already know?
It all relates to value and self-value. And this is like such a huge, I'm going to wave my hands in the air so if you're scrolling through this you see, because you stop. Somebody told me, if you want to be some sort of teacher or coach or whatever, God to a 4th grader is a 5th grader. So just teach 4th graders and below. Don't worry about high school kids. Don't worry about college kids. Just teach someone who's you're one step ahead of. And I was like, oh my God. It's so true.
Yeah.
I don't, of course, I'm not gonna magically teach elite gymnasts, but I could teach props to someone who's never picked something up before. But it was up to me being still, meditating, without the distractions, with the anxiety and uncomfortability to get that realization. And that's hard to do, is just be still. Because I don't actually know what I'm feeling. And but it starts to turn magical when you actually figure out your own questions.
Yeah, that's grad student stuff. When you apply for being a grad student in college, there's certain questions you have to start asking yourself, and so that's the thing. Is most people in undergrad won't do that. Yeah. If you're an undergrad and getting your bachelor's, you won't do that. But when you're someone that's going back to grad school, you start asking questions that need research to answer.
Right. And so nobody can answer them but you.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't like that. I want everybody to answer my questions for me so I don't have the responsibility of my own life.
Yeah.
And that's not the way it works. That's not the way you move mountains. That's not the way you make shit happen out of thin air. It's like...
Yeah, and it's not necessarily moving the mountain, it's learning how to navigate it.
Absolutely.
Or like what Rick Kelly says, and this is something he's gotten from somebody else. He says, it's not what the man does to the mountain, it's what the mountain does to the man.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and it's the lessons you learn through negotiating the obstacles of life.
Yeah.
And how are you going to use that to empower you and make you stronger? And at times it has to break you down before it does that. But it's really hard to get. It's really hard to get anything from somebody that hasn't incurred some kind of suffering, because that's necessary for you to look at the things that maybe you thought were once truths. Nothing's a truth, but one of the things you once thought were truths, and be able to say, do I still believe this?
Can you expand on the breaking down process, because I think it's a very important topic.
Yeah. So so if you've never experienced, and this is going to sound kind of like, you'll know if you've been through this. Okay, you'll know if you've been through this. But if you haven't experienced heartache, having your heart broken, if you haven't experienced losing somebody, like someone passing away, if you haven't experienced absolute failure where you question your reality and the people around you, and if you haven't experienced those things, or like you haven't been in extreme debt, or been hungry, or had a broken bone, or things like that, things that are like people never want to experience because they seem so detrimental. If you haven't experienced those things, you're actually at a disadvantage to life.
Yeah.
Okay? Of getting to where that maybe possibly you need to be, because those things can be on a scale. Everybody has a different scale of trauma when it comes to things. And I don't like to say I've experienced what you've experienced. It's not true, because pain is felt on a very different level across the board. You cannot say that. You cannot say everyone feels exactly the same way.
Right.
But if you haven't experienced those things, then you really are not testing your character. Okay? Mm-hmm. And those are the things that test character. They test, if you get broken or you break down, then you come back from it, you're building yourself back up. That makes you 10 times stronger than the person you were before that.
Yeah.
And like what we oftentimes say as an analogy in parkour is that what you do outside is worth 10 times what you were dealing with inside, like inside in that parkour gym, because you're dealing with way more variables and situations and failures outside that could happen, and inside you can be safe. And you kind of encased in this bubble of I can control everything inside here, but you're not in control. That's the thing, is that you're not in control of those things that happen. Yeah, it's an illusion. And we can be experienced.
Yeah.
We can make educated decisions from all the things that have happened to us, but we really cannot say that, I feel like this is the case. Like if you're thinking that everything, and I'm not saying people shouldn't be happy or shouldn't be joyful on a daily basis, but I do think that people need to understand that you can't just tell someone just be happy. You can't just tell somebody, well, I don't understand why you just can't be happy. It's because people have experienced betrayal, experienced down in the dirt prejudice, or you've experienced extreme loss, those are things that, that are, if you can get through those things and you learn how to come back from them, they just make you that much stronger,
I feel like those defining moments is where the inspiration comes.
Yeah.
When the magic starts to happen, when you start to use that stuff to create whatever you're creating or expressing.
And you were saying breaking down, right? What does that mean? And so one thing they try to do, what any mentor should try to do to you at some point, with love, should try to break you in a certain way. Okay?
Why?
Because you don't really know who you are until you've lost control.
I love that. I've been out of control many times.
Because then you come back and you have to put the pieces back together, right?
I love that.
Yeah, and rebuild it and make it stronger. So it's, if you're someone who's never, there's people that, that just won't let go of certain traumas. And I'm not saying let it go as in it didn't happen. You have to let it, no, it happened.
Yeah.
And you have to acknowledge that it happened.
Yeah.
But you have to if it breaks you down, that's actually quite a good thing. It's very uncomfortable. It is. If I'm here and having a discussion with somebody, and I say something that breaks them, it is really uncomfortable, especially for me because I feel like an asshole. But it might have been the best thing that happened to that person.
Absolutely.
Because you just made you just broke that person's universe.
Yeah. Whether they realize it or not.
Yeah. and they're gonna have to put the pieces back together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought of something that is really important that I want to share because most people who are watching this are somewhat tied into movement, and movement is tied to music. Music's you would say music is a huge part of life.
One of the two things that mammals, there's a lot of things, not mammals, humans have, primates have, or whatever, I'm trying to get to the right word here, us humans have that other mammals don't, is we have an extreme ability to have a very complex rhythmic language. And also, we are one of the few things that can adapt, besides maybe, the other thing I've seen, like mimic other people, or like octopus, like they're really intelligent, but they're not mammals. But we can adapt and mimic things way better than any other kind of animal can. And rhythmically, we have a way more robust knowledge in that area as well. So
you were talking about some people just don't want to let go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an extremely musical person. I love listening. I have playlists for everything.
Mm-hmm.
I did not realize that I had associated a song for every painful moment in my life.
Yeah.
And I would listen to it on fucking repeat all the time.
When did those songs come into being? What years? Do you have one for almost every year?
I have one for every ex.
Uh-huh.
Every tormented feeling I felt, I've attached a song because I had used it as therapy.
Uh-huh.
But I didn't leave it there. I still have it 26 years later.
Yeah.
And every time I listen to it, I'm reliving that moment.
Yeah.
And I woke up, I was like, why am I continuing to do this to myself? I woke up and I was like, first of all, what is the subject matter that I'm singing? Because I like to sing, when I'm by myself. Am I singing about, I love 9 Inch Nails and Marilyn Manson. I love metal.
I like some Marilyn Manson too.
But what am I singing?
Mm-hmm.
What am I talking about to myself?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that music is good or bad, but whatever words are coming out of my mouth is a reflection of how I'm feeling. So it was just great for me to analyze what I was doing. And I stopped. I had limited the amount of vocal lyrics in the music that I listened to. I try to listen to foreign music now, so I don't know what they're saying. So I don't feel that person's pain per se. I just have my own interpretation.
When I have to break through movement barriers, I have to do that too, because I'll get too involved in interpreting what the music is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I first not got out of breakdancing, but when I first kind of broke away from that, I had to stop listening to all the old school b-boy beats because they would bring me to b-boy land,
Right.
And so I had to stop doing that, and I was wait for the breakdown, or that kind of thing, And
yeah.
I had to stop doing that. or like, you know, when I he was like raver boy, I didn't ever go to really raves or anything, but I just loved electronic music, and I still do. But I listened to that, and I had to break out of that in order to be able to become a better breakdancer.
Yeah.
Because I would start listening to just like electronic music.
Yeah.
You know. So I think there's definitely something there, which comes like you have to go to a very foreign place. Speaking of foreign music,
yeah.
A foreign place in order for you to break out of your patterns.
Yeah, absolutely. And now I'm experiencing this interesting dynamic between like, I caught myself the other day, I was practicing and just like moving to music, and inside I was angry, so I was listening to like very like, you know, moving like dun, dun, like theatrical music, but my body was tired. So there was like a disconnect. I was playing with fire a little bit because I was like interpreting this angry music and it was letting things out, but I wasn't paying attention to where my body was at.
Yeah, one thing I like about having a wide base of movement is like if I'm really angry, I go and do some martial arts stuff, or I'll go. And some people like, you know, some people can interpret anger into dance. I found it a lot easier just to go punch a bag for like until I was exhausted, because the monks call them peace poles, and they would like hit these things and send the energy back into the earth, that kind of thing.
Ooh, I love that.
So it's
peace poles.
Peace poles. Well, that's what I've been told they are. I don't know their actual name.
Right.
It's literally a log surrounded maybe by padding that's into the ground, and you just beat the living crap out of it. It's a log, and then when you're done with it, you're like, that's gone.
Yeah,
you know,
I love that.
And that's gone. And so, or like a scream room. That's another important one. Is having so people like what we're constantly doing on a daily basis is they don't interact with each other, you don't show any aggression whatsoever, and you don't show any emotion whatsoever, like you were talking about before, right? And if you don't have those things, those are all really important things for getting that stuff out there, you know? And that's why, like, if you look at primates, or like if you look at like chimps or anything like that, you know, if they're mad, they're gonna let you know they're mad. And then it's over. And then it's over, right? It doesn't, I mean, some of them do hold grudges, and there's all that kind of crap that happens too, and they have jealousy and everything along those kind of lines, but it's like, you know, there's these places I've actually seen where they have like, you do these primal noises where you just go like, oh, or you know, or like you don't assign anything to any noise. You just do what feels like needs to come out, right? Or like when it comes to like, if I'm really, really agitated, can't focus on form, can't focus on things like that are specifically geared toward a skill, right? Then I do these things that are just like, I'll slop around on the floor, you know? I will, you know, just run as long as I can until I'm like, okay, I got it out.
Yeah,
you know?
I love that.
I'll just hum for a long period of time. I'll try to match a tone at the humming noise. Or I'll hit something for a very long time until I'm like, okay, I got it out. You know?
But I think it's very easy for you to say the things that you do to
it's not going to work for everybody.
How did you realize that it was important for you to take the time to do these things?
Because I felt it was depreciating the relationships I had with other people if I didn't.
You were just a monster.
No, I'm someone that's really good at, I kind of tell myself I'm a ninja, you know? And so like, I'm someone that can be like, I can be in the room with my worst enemy, somebody that I hate, and the only reason that's keeping me in that room is I think that person might have something to tell me that might save my life later on in life. So that's how I treat a lot of people. So even if I don't like them, even if I hate their guts, I will still treat them as if some information that they have will one day save my life, and that's why I should listen to them maybe at that moment. So that's you know, that's more of a Jordan Peterson thing that, you know, that comes to certain situations. That. But there's definitely times when I can't be around that person or something like that. But that's how I usually, that's what I realized, that's why I might listen to somebody. You know, and once I realize that there really is nothing that they have that can save my life, then I'm like, okay, maybe I don't need to listen to this person. But how did I come around to those things? Yeah, you know, it's like, it's an experiment. And that's one thing I've always given myself room, and I didn't say, okay, I'm going to give myself room to figure out how this helps. It wasn't like that. It was more or less, I was an accident. You know, it was an accident. So I found that, you know, one day I was just so fatigued but I'm like, oh man, I need to train, I need to do something, I don't want to waste these 5 hours, you know, and maybe doing nothing, which probably is maybe what I should have been doing, is doing nothing, you know, and
ironically.
yeah, and so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to lay on my back, and I'm just going to rock, you know, just do this rocking motion, you know. A lot of it I got from modern dance, and I learned a lot from the somatic way of moving, which is like, there's no aesthetic behind it, it's just, what is it that needs to come out? Okay, let it out. You don't need to have aesthetic behind it. You know?
Somatic way of moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like Feldenkrais is big on that, and then like organic movement, or like if you ever watch some videos of like when they have these and these outdoor electronic, and I don't like to use the word hippie because I think it has a, you know, I'm not trying to put people in this category, but something that might be a little bit more like. Where most people would not go to an event like this, versus like electronic music, everyone there is, you know, I don't know how to say this without sounding mean, but like, you know, let's say a bunch of hippy dippy people from Sedona go to some electronic, you know, outdoor rave, something that has drum circles and everything like that. And I think all that, nothing about that is bad. I'm just saying, let's just put ourselves in that situation. What are the typical people that end up in a place like that, right? And we see these people dancing, and they have no dance background. Right, and they're just dancing and doing what they feel needs to come out at that moment. That's organic dance, right?
Yeah.
So, and everybody can do that. You don't need to be a good dancer to do it, because there's no such thing as a good organic dancer or a bad organic. It's just like, it's just moving to what you feel needs to come out at that moment.
I feel like that lesson.
Very therapeutic.
That lesson is what is very valuable. Very valuable to everybody. I have a friend that I was talking to who used to be a rhythmic gymnast, a male rhythmic gymnast. And
so there are some?
There are a few.
Okay.
There's some in Spain that are competing. It's their second year of competing. Very happy for them. There's some in Japan. But this friend was doing rhythmic gymnastics like in the 90s when there was no. He had so much pressure on himself that I sent him a video of me because I was like asking him for advice, or just to support, just like, hey, this is what I'm doing, like, look, I just want to celebrate this moment, like with somebody else who does rhythmic gymnastics, and he could not wrap his head around that it was just for my sheer joy.
Yeah.
He was like, you gotta work on your splits, you gotta make sure your releve is like improved, you gotta spot your head, and I was like, hey friend, this is just for fun and my personal growth. And he's like, it's important that it looks good. And I was like, no, this has nothing to do with being judged. But it was so ingrained in him because he used to compete and was in that environment for so long.
Yeah.
He couldn't.
And that's typical. It's a very different situation you're in with what happened with that. But that's very typical. Like, is there he's from Spain, right? Is there a language barrier there?
Yes.
A little bit? Okay. So a lot of times what ends up happening is, especially on, if someone says, please critique, help, like that. And a lot of times these guys, these people that get video or are getting asked help from other people, and then, you know, it's like they think what they usually say, I need help to do this kind of thing. And they're usually dealing with people that are very uneducated. Okay, so like if I'm, let's say, someone from a third world country messages me, it's like, hey, can you help me with my corkscrew? They send, and I'm like, well, I can't help you with anything unless I see video. I can't. I can't do anything, you know? So they might send you a video of crappy quality, whatever like that. Say, what can I do? I'm like, well, first you have to learn how to do a backflip. You know?
Right.
It's like, and so I think what's going on with that, and this is a very typical situation, is that they're like, they don't know you.
Right.
You know, and that's where the disconnect is, you know.
Right.
And so, and you're coming from somebody who's like, you probably know them better than they know themselves.
Right. No, I know.
You know, because of this, and then they're treating you as if, you know, you're just a factory-born rhythmic gymnast.
Right. And it takes a lot of self-discovery for me not to waver, not to let other people's wind waver my branches, you know?
Well, I mean, there's certain things that I'm never going, well, I don't like to use the word never, but certain ships have sailed, my friends, you know, and so like, it'll take me, I need extra, probably daily help to help get my hip extension better, or get my ankle flexion better, you know, or to get my overhead extension better. I need daily work on that. and I can do things to help prevent myself from getting injured in those areas, but there are certain things that you are going to need help to actually to fix and prevent, and no amount of like, of knowing, of like doing these different things are going to actually fix those problems along the way. I'm working with what I got. So if someone comes along and says, your hip extension is not 180 degrees, blah, 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 I'm like, I know that. I want to do it anyway.
I'm totally fine with 90 degrees, buddy. 90 degrees is fine with me.
Yeah.
And I hired a flexibility coach. And
yeah, you said you're working with somebody online.
Yeah, I was working with somebody online, and the other day I was like, why am I doing this?
Oh, yeah.
Why is my goal doing the splits? Like, why? Mm-hmm. Is it because I'm not okay where I'm at? Mm-hmm. Is it because when I get to this certain point, that means that I'm good? Why? Mm-hmm. Like, if I'm trying to nurture my body and I'm trying to heal my body, why am I putting myself through that physical exertion in that strain aspect? Like, why? So I decided to just stretch my body, but not stretch for a certain goal. Like, not it be aesthetics, it be for mechanical, like, so that I am just, lubricated and bendy, just to be healthy. And that made me not want to do the flexibility coaching anymore. So I was really happy that sort of realization.
Yeah, I had a coach for a little while too, and we did get some great gains. But what ended up happening was because they were like actually pushing on me and everything like that. This guy's, I think I told you about him, Ashton. He's a great, and I want to tell you, this is my experience with it. It has nothing to do with Ashton's ability. You have to, if you have a coach with you and you're an adult and you know how to like say yes or no to people, and something's hurting you, you have to be able to tell them something's not working for you. Okay, and so this was my fault this happened, this is not Ashton's fault. I want to be very clear about that. Okay, so we were doing some stretching, and when you're an athlete, you're very good at pushing past pain and discomfort.
Yes.
Okay? You're very good at doing that because that is how the spirit is born. It's not necessarily how a healthy body is born, but it's how the spirit is born, all right? And that's what makes the difference between people that can, that are able to compete in certain things, is you can push through a lot of shit. Yeah. You can, you're really good at taking punishment, right? Yeah. I'm one of those kind of people. I'm really good at taking punishment. But there was a certain point I was getting to, and we were pushing down the splits, and I'm feeling that hip. It's like, okay, that hip has met the bone. It can't go any farther. And I can't, and I'm trying to relax, but I can't. If I relax, my hip's going to pop out, And I got to that point, And so when you're actually at that point, you're probably way far past what you should have been already.
Right.
Because it means you're jamming your joint against the other one. But you're trying to you imagine that. You are so spirited. You're so good and disciplined about that you are letting your body literally about to break. So it was like 99.9% of being able to break my hip out of the socket, right? And Ashton could easily do that to me because he's a pretzel maker. So,
a pretzel maker.
I call him the pretzel maker. Yes.
Yeah.
And so I ended up being injured for like about 6 weeks. My pectineus and psoas, they both turned off. Muscles deactivated, right? And I had to get those reactivated through palpation, which sucks. And I had to take some steps back from that kind of thing, But it's like, you said at what cost, right? I wanted a 180 degree split. It's not going to happen for me. Yeah. I might, and it's like I do have. We could talk about. We want to talk a little about injuries. We can talk a little bit about that because I think this might be a good segue for it. But there's a certain amount of daily. Everybody can get to a certain amount of their passive range of motion turning into active range of motion, right? But if you're not putting in the work for that, which takes a freaking long time, especially as an adult, then you are setting yourself up for some type of injury along the way just because of the way it works. And so, are you holding on to it? And a lot of these elite people, they have no idea what it's like to be a muggle. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, and have to deal with that. And I consider myself a muggle compared to elitist, and I consider other people muggles compared to me. Yeah. Right? But there's a lot of these people, they're so good at taking punishment and their bodies were already in a good position from the very beginning, and they never didn't have that, right? Some of them had to work for it, but they never really had that. So it's like they treat everybody as if they're, they have the capability of getting that as well.
Right.
So, and it's not true. It's not.
Yeah, this is bringing up a lot of stuff for me, which is good.
This is where you as a coach becomes a good thing.
Yeah, like hearing you talk, I was just reflecting. I was trying to be present and listen to you, but I was also reflecting.
I've had a few moments doing that earlier. Don't worry about it.
But my pursuit to the splits and oversplit is not because I want to do it. It's because when I get to that point, people are going to take me seriously. Or when I get to that point, I'm going to qualify.
Yeah.
Or when I get to that point, that means I'm good. And that's not.
Have you met Cody the Twirler? Okay, Cody the Twirler.
I love that name though.
He's a batonist.
Oh my
He's a tall, lanky batonist with excuse me, my friend, the worst flexibility I've ever seen.
Oh my god, I need to see him.
Okay, you can look him up afterward. I'll put his thing on here. But Cody came to me wanting to learn how to do a side flip. This kid's very charismatic. I love his attention. His parents are awesome to be able to sit down and make him take video, and actually, because things cost money and they realize it, they'll actually make him study the stuff he does so he doesn't come back the next time being a complete. He comes back ready to advance to the next level. He doesn't come back, having to reteach everything we just taught the first time. So he's a great performer, great athlete. Horrible flexibility. So, what is it about Cody that makes him so interesting? He's someone that's been invited to be on, like Spain's Got Talent or some other countries like that. It's his charisma, and he's doing things that are different, right? So he's a baton twirler that uses newer music, does exciting things with it, but he doesn't have the body. He doesn't have the body to do it. But he has something very, very different, and it doesn't mean he can't ever become that thing. I mean, he definitely could. And I don't want to. Again, another thing about having podcasts like this is you run the risk of people taking you the wrong way. What you're trying to say, but this is reality.
People can take you the wrong way no matter what.
Yeah, and so I want to be very clear that I think Cody has everything it takes to be an extremely powerful and great athlete, along with being charismatic and being somebody that's different that the world kind of needs right now, that breaks the boundaries of what we see in his area. But he has a lot of work to do with his flexibility, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But what I was trying to get to with that is that. How is he able to be as popular as he is and what he's doing without having those things?
Right.
Right. Yeah, and that's that. Yeah, it's his charisma, and you meet him and you talk to me, and like, I could be around Cody all day.
Yeah.
Cody's great to be around.
I find it funny that you say that, because I find more inspiration from finding people that are quote unquote not good.
Overcoming adversity.
Overcoming adversity. People that are overcoming adversity than seeing elite people.
Yeah.
Because I just connect with that more. Yeah.
Why do people put so much? Why
that was so bad. Not good.
Why do you think there's so much of an emphasis on people? Well, there's two areas with this, but why do you think that we love our Olympians so much? Because they do stuff that we think we never can be able to do, right? So we put all this money into them in sports and those great people, and that's been going on for thousands of years, right? We put a lot of money into people that are really good at something because they will bring something. They will, because if you feed that talent, they will bring new things to light. It's like technology. It's feeding new technology, which are feeding, athletes these ways. But a lot of times, what is oftentimes overlooked is these performing art fields. Okay, it's really easy for the common person, you Neanderthals, the common people to be really induced by ball sports. And why is that? Well, it's deeply in human nature to like to throw things, and we're one of the few mammals that can actually throw things with accuracy.
There is something magical about throwing things.
Exactly.
I can't explain it.
Yeah, and then also, so sticks and rocks. Like those are the two things that pretty much we built our every sport off of sticks and rocks.
Wow.
Yeah. And so everything is kind of a slight variation of that in some sort of way until we figured out what wheels were, and those were great.
Right.
You know?
That's
And so,
fascinating.
yeah, and so it's like, those are like they're very simple things, right? You can get a lot out of just teaching somebody how to use a ball, right? Because it's a simple object. It's not a complex object. If this ball had like very specific handholds on it, you know, then you have to specialize in how to grab those handholds in order to use it, right?
Right.
And there is a certain amount of specialization you need to do, and then the more specific you make the apparatus or thing you're playing with, the more specialized you become, right? And that becomes harder for people to relate to it and grasp the idea of it, right? And that's why it's like you see a kid, they pick up a rock, they throw it, right? An innate thing to do that. Or they take sticks and they hit things with them or play games and everything along those kind of lines. So what I'm getting to with all that kind of stuff is when we talked about you know, people saying like, well, they won't take you serious unless you have an oversplit or things like that. And you know, it's like, at what point are you getting something back for that? You know, if you're a contortionist, you're probably going to get a lot back for that. You know, if you're someone who, you know, is going to push yourself to the point of getting those things, and then you have a decrepit hip after that, you know, you don't get a whole lot back for that, right? And the way society is these days, 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks from now, you'll be forgotten. And that's the hard thing about it. You know, is like saying the second you've accomplished something, 2 weeks from now, people usually forget about it. You know.
Yeah.
That's your charisma and your character.
It's very
those
true.
are things that most people cannot replace.
It's very true. And I realized I want to be 100% okay. I want to have that same feeling with the flexibility and the skills I have right now as if I was an Olympic gymnast. I want.
And it doesn't mean that you're not going to, you don't have like, every now and then you're not going to try and pursue something.
Of course.
I mean, the Olympic gymnasts, they're in the same position that you are in. Okay, and what I mean by that is that they can't waste time chasing a new skill because they have to perfect the skills they have. There's a certain period of time, especially with periodization when it comes to training those athletes, they have a little bit of time to play. Okay, so like Paul Hamm in the 2008, maybe one after that Olympics, 2012, he was trying to put air flares into his routine, and they looked okay, but they don't have, you know, they don't have the time to do that. They have so much other crap they have to do across the apparatus board. You know, it's like you give your all for maybe 2-3 months to see if you can accomplish a new skill. And if you happen to catch up on it and get it, you put it in your routine, right? But you can't. This is something a lot of people don't get that haven't ever had to train for a performance, and actually like a good performance that like people are gonna, you know, are relying on you for, is like you can't be trying to do a new skill 1 week before an event. You know,
that's crazy. I mean,
you can't. I mean, I've seen more injuries come of it in frustration than actual anything. But I've been a part of that. I've tried to like, oh, competition's coming up. I have 2 weeks left. I'm going to try and get this new skill that I'll throw down in this event and somehow make better. No, you're just going to get hurt. Okay, along with the process and be frustrated. In those 2 weeks, you could have been preparing yourself to be healthier for that competition instead of breaking yourself down right before a competition, when that's when you should be building yourself up. You know, so
would you say that the conditioning part is way more important than the actual trick, right?
Conditioning, define conditioning.
Like let's just say you're trying to learn a handstand. The conditioning work of strengthening your wrists, your shoulders,
joint integrity,
like all of that mechanic work that even prepares you for the handstand.
Joint integrity should be your warm-up. It should be your everyday work. That's something that most people don't do. They chase the skill, which is, you know why they don't do it? It's because it's not a human thing to do.
That would be me.
You know, it's not like we wake up, I mean, we do a little, some of it might do naturally. It's called waking up and going for a walk through the forest. That can be joint integrity work. It could be climbing up this light tree to get some berries. You know, it's like, that's all stuff that's light stuff that helps keep everything healthy and moving like that.
Gotcha.
Doing acrobatic movement is the farthest capacity from natural movement that there possibly could be.
Gotcha.
Okay? So it's very hard on us because of that, you know? So like if I'm doing handstand work, I gotta do a lot of end range work to get almost beyond this motion to make this joint healthy to do that for a long period of time. Or for my wrist, I should be doing stuff every morning to do that.
Gotcha.
You know, it's something that it has to become a meditative movement practice on a daily basis if you don't already have it very well. I get inflamed wrists if I don't work on my stuff and I don't do my stuff as much as I should. On a daily basis, when I was doing my stuff on a daily basis of joint integrity work, which is end range strength training of the joint, of its movement capacity, as well as strengthening it, and then also trying to break into new ranges and flexibility and mobilization, all that kind of stuff across the board.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not doing that, then I'm at a greater risk for hurting those areas because I'm using them more often in some kind of doing something at its the farthest capacity possible.
Right.
So handstands, for example, a lot of flexion in your wrists. If I'm not training the muscles back here, right, overstretching this area and overdeveloping this area, the elbow, right, not getting lockout, I'm going to suffer from that. Right, the shoulder not going through complete elevation, I'm going to suffer from that. And those are all things you have to constantly train and make stronger, right? Because it's people don't realize it until they get hurt that it was an issue in the first place. So,
but would you say that you have to do the soul searching to figure out why is your why, to motivate you to do all of that conditioning?
There are some people that will never have to do that and they'll be fine. I've met people that have the most horrible wrists, that some guys that do one-arm handstands, and you're supposed to see, look at my hand right here, it doesn't get to 90-degree flexion, right? My wrist does not get, yours is pretty good. It doesn't get to 90-degree flexion, all right? And I'm telling myself, I want to hold my body weight on this.
Oh,
I
see what you're saying.
So I can passively do it, but I don't have active range there, to be able to do that. I know guys that do one-arm handstands that this is their active range. Okay? So they are at a greater risk of hurting that area, but they may never. There's people that smoke cigarettes, eat McDonald's, and hang out in polluted environments for their whole life. They live to be 110. I don't know what the fuck they did. They got them there to do that. They're an outlier. There's someone that just imagine what they could have done if they didn't do that stuff.
Right.
It's like they probably lived to 140.
Yeah.
So I think do you have to do some soul searching? Yeah. I think you have. Well, again, you have to kind of get broken down. I always say I have to make a mistake 3 times before I learn from it.
How do you not be afraid of injuries?
Well, if I went through my whole life being afraid of injuries, then I wouldn't accomplish anything.
You wouldn't even walk.
Well, that's what is it? Hypochondria? No.
Yeah, it's hypochondria.
Yeah, and you're constantly afraid of everything around you hurting you, or so you just don't do anything.
Yeah.
Part of that, I don't know. I've met men and women that both kind of just throw themselves into oblivion and see what happens. Mm-hmm. I've gotten hurt enough where I'm like, okay, I can't do that all the time.
Right.
But it's you can't accomplish anything great if you're afraid to. If you're it's a risk-reward ratio, and like I'm trying to learn how to do air flares right now. My body's not built for air flares at all.
What's your why?
Why is it not built for air flares?
No, why are you trying to learn?
I want to see if one thing is I'm testing out to see if what people are putting out there as the proper methods to acquire something is actually going to work. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times people that are good at something will put out something that says, this is how you accomplish this. Mm-hmm. And there's no one that sticks with it long enough to see if it actually works. Mm-hmm. So part of it's experimenting on my own body to see if that works, because I'm really into seeing if this person's credible or not. I just noticed you're wearing glitter fingernail polish. That's awesome. So
it took me a long time to be comfortable wearing glitter nail polish, and I used to do it when I was a kid. And now I'm like, let's do it as an adult, and it's uncomfortable every once in a while, but I need to get over my shit.
No, I think it's awesome. So why? And the why behind it. And I like to give myself 1, 2, maybe 3 hard things, that just to give myself some focus of saying, okay, I need a daily practice of something that I'm working toward, of something, some kind of thing. Right. It doesn't have to take up my whole day. It takes me, 10 minutes of work on this thing. That's more than enough because it's hard to get better at it, right? Right. And then I have play and other things that I'm doing, and adulting crap or whatever along the way that I have to do. But why do I do it? Well, I enjoy the pursuit of something I consider to be heroic, but it's what you consider. you have to decide if it's worth it to do it.
Right.
But I think I would love to be able to do some air flares in the middle of a performance I'm doing. Like I would just love to be able to do that.
Air flare is when your arms are like this, right?
So an air flare is when in breakdancing you just seem like normal. That's so. I'll put video up on it.
Is it when you're in a handstand and you're doing the flare?
Kind of. It's so if you have the normal flare, it's when you come around to the back and you're like this, and then you swing your legs through and you're coming up, and then you kick over and land on your hand on the other side.
Okay.
Right. So they're pretty common today, but they were like considered like people are like almost doing double air flares now.
It's like a quick 180, right?
But you're going through the horizontal axis.
Right.
You're not vertical.
Right.
You know, you're slightly vertical. So they were like when I was starting and stuff, like they were like just being like, you know, breakthroughs and people doing them, and like it was like the best thing, and people still love them now. But you know, it's like when people will in breakdancing, people usually take you seriously.
Mm-hmm.
You know, once you can do an air flare.
Right.
You know, and it's not to. Part of me is, you know, I do like, for me as an individual, I like to take my skill level in any given art form to the edge of what I consider to be almost can become an elite. Almost, you know, because that just tells me, okay, you know what? I had the ability to do it, and I chose to not spend the rest of my life doing that one thing because there's other things to practice.
Yeah.
So, like with parkour, you know, knowing I can jump buildings,
yeah,
you know, and or take a high drop,
yeah,
those are or do a really far Kong precision. You know, I took it to the area of like I thought, okay, this is definitely getting toward the maximum potential of what I'm capable of doing. If I go any farther than this, it's going to take years to get better.
Yeah.
You know, at that point, I'm like, okay, I can't really gain much more from this.
Right.
You know, same thing with breakdancing. If I can get my air flares or my flares down, I'm not going to be able to get much farther than that.
Right.
I'm not going to without years and years of practice. You
right.
know, to be able to do that, and if my body can even do it at that point. You know, there's no way I'm going to do air chairs. Fuck up my shoulder. You know, I'm just not be able to do it. Or with lifting, if I can deadlift twice my body weight, you know, I'm pretty happy with that. With tumbling, if I can do a round up back handspring back full, you know, to go farther than that, double full, I might be able to pull that off again.
Yeah.
You know, but to go farther than that, it's like you're going to become so highly specialized, you're not going to get anything out of it. You're not going to get anything from the mountain.
Right.
You know,
right.
like I said before.
That's very interesting that you say that, because I found myself doing the same thing. I was analyzing all the elite rhythmic gymnasts right now. I was taking their skills that I could do and then making that my skill set. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? So I felt the little bit of magic of like the elite.
It makes you feel like, like when I was really into following Juji Mufu, if I could do like the chair splits between two chairs, or if I could do like the moves he did, I'm like, I am Juji. I feel like Juji now. This is, you know, great. That's why I love to go. Like the best times I think that his stuff is when he's outdoors training in the middle of the summer in a grassy field, completely alone, listening to power metal, and you know, and drinking protein shakes and taking vitamins and lifting weights, and that's like, okay, that's, you know, a super hyper masculine, fun way to like, you know, express myself, and it makes me feel like I'm Juji, and Juji's awesome, you know? Yeah. But I'm not going to do everything that Juji does,
right?
You know, because I'm not Juji,
right?
You know, I'm not, and it's like you can't do everything those rhythmic girls do or guys do, whoever you're following, because you're not that person. You're Daven.
I know. I just want I want to look back and I want to see my foot. But it's all good.
You're not the only person that wants to be able to do that.
Yeah, I know.
I remember in high school I used to be able to pull my leg around. I could grab it like this, and I was like, how do I stop doing that?
I don't know. And how do you feel about your body getting older?
Aging?
Yep.
I love it.
Really?
Well, let's
what do you love about it?
I have the tools. I know the tools to keep myself healthy for as long as possible. I have all that. It's all available for you. You can look up controlled articular rotations. You can look up functional range conditioning. You can look up joint integrity.
I just want you to know that you're immersed in that field, so you might think it's common knowledge.
It isn't common knowledge. I'm saying it's available to everybody.
I have no idea. Like, I would like to learn those things, but I have no idea where to start.
Yeah. Well, remember how I said before that you could teach yourself a pretty high level of physics just by yourself? You can sort through the bullshit, right?
Well, that's the thing, is the amount of information is so immense.
Yeah.
You kind of need to find one person to kind of follow You know what I mean?
There were 3 books that when I read books, I don't really read very much. When I
you can still read, right?
I can still.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I'm very bad. I have more books than I read.
Yeah.
So it's like, but no, I mean, there's 3 things that really did it for me. One was Stretching Scientifically by Thomas Kurz. The other one was Strength and Conditioning for Dancers. And the third one was a class by Cynthia Rosa Stima from ASU. And they were those different areas really kind of started me off on a good point of understanding what do we have to be looking at. And you really should be looking at the joint and end range training, and as well as your fascia. So, because if your joints are healthy, then you'll be able to become strong.
Right.
There's no way around it. If your joint is strong, the joint area is if the load capacity you can put in this joint is really high, then you can get really strong. You know, especially if you can do it in a full range of motion, right? If you can't, then what are you doing every time you go to that bottom range of motion that you don't have? Well, the other joint takes it.
Right.
Example, let's say I have flexion of my ankle right here, right? So if I only have, this is how much dorsal flexion I have, right? Being able to pull up the toes up toward my ankle, right? So from the ankle flexing upwards, so yours is pretty good. So if I have that coming up there, right? That's all the range. This is my active range. If I put myself into a weighted position and I force that into a deeper position, I actually don't have strength in that range. The weight of gravity is pushing me down farther into it, so I have a passive range, right? But then let's say I try to go down and do a deep squat, and I go, and at a certain point I'm unable to bend forward. So then what's the joint that's working now? My hips, right? My back is doing that. So now my back is doing ankle stuff.
Gotcha.
Right? So it's going to borrow from something else along the way. So there's just kind of this area where you can always try to progress something farther and farther along if you can, right? But then at the same time, if we try to say, well, someone said do full depth squats, I'm going to do full depth squat. What if your full depth squat is destroying your back?
Right.
You know? And this is where we come to this idea that I'm not saying don't do full squats. I'm not saying don't lift heavy. I'm not saying do any of that kind of stuff. It's all has its own merit in its own place. You have to you have to go look it up and figure it out what's going to work best for you, because you're not me, okay? And, you know, and do some experimentation and start light and build things slowly, you know? That's really the thing here, is build things slowly. We all of us want to be the Dwayne The Rock Johnson and wake up at 5 in the morning and go get at it and get nice and jacked, you know, like he is. Or we all want to be, you know, someone that can hit full range of motion and have great internal, external rotation of our hip. But it's it takes a long time to build those things, you know? I've been exposed to things that made me understand that stuff at a much, you know, and I understand what it takes to do that, but I still need a coach to help me do it. I mean, it's hard. I make more of my students do it than I do.
What would you say to the people who are watching who have not found the motivation to seek knowledge?
Seek knowledge?
Just seek in general. I find plenty of people have asked me, they just don't even know what they want to do. Well, they know they want to move, they know
you can only study so many things at one time. That's the first thing. So if you get a bad case of what's called fuck-around-itis, and you want to, that's when play is a good time to do, because that's when you that's when you're most creative to do that, right? That's probably not a good time to seek that stuff out. The best time to do that is when you when you have a single thing that's ailing you. So again, it's hard to figure out what you're looking for. But I mean, and there's some basic things you can look at. Like I said, if you look up functional range conditioning, that's a good place to start. If you look at postural realignment, that's a pretty good place to do it. Or Postural Realignment Institute, that's another good one, which talks a lot about breath and using breath work and everything along those kind of lines. Wim Hof is a great place to look at for teaching yourself how to control your autonomous nervous system. There's a
lot of places to look at.
I just said 3.
Plus the 3 books.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is that those books were all, if you look at the joint, right? If you want to have longevity, look at things involving joint integrity.
Joint
integrity.
Joint integrity.
Yeah, look at things involving joint integrity. That's a good place to start, okay? And then maybe learn how to breathe. Watch some Wim Hof videos, okay? And learn how to breathe, because if you're focusing on those two things alone, then you're focusing on how much your joints are moving and how much strength they have, and you're focusing on how you're being able to breathe. And if you can do both of those things pretty well, okay, then you're gonna probably your body will be freed up to do a lot of other things.
That is very digestible to me.
Okay.
That does not give me anxiety. I like that.
All right.
I love that. I can start there.
Okay. So learn how to breathe, because you need to do that, and then learn and teach your joints how to move, because you need to do that to keep them healthy. Like, those are the two things I would say probably are really worth your time. And diet's important, yeah, but that's very individual for every single person.
Right.
And so you all have joints and they all have to move. You can't change that. You all have diets, but that could change based on your heritage and where you are and if you have autoimmune diseases and all that kind of other crap that could be along that kind of line, right? So that I can't give you a whole lot of help with, but
I can.
When it comes to and then try to drink mostly water, and that has a good mineral content to it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I love that. I'm gonna research that.
Yeah, I guess, and I'll have a bunch of links on this that are good places to look at for that kind of stuff. It's very vast, and it's like there's people that built entire careers on this kind of stuff. So it's like, that's all good stuff to look into. But it's like, if you have some area that hurts, just work on that joint.
Right.
Make this joint do what it does.
Right.
Right. Instead of trying to demand it of things that it can't do right now.
Yeah.
Which you can't tell until you get hurt. So. Hey, I saw that you had a sensory deprivation bag in there. Is that what that is?
Oh, it's infrared sauna.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. My closet, there's no clothes in there, there's no shelves, and there's the infrared sauna in there with Himalayan salt lamps.
That's so freaking cool.
Yeah.
So the squatty potty. If you don't know what that is that people should, pretty much, Western culture pretty much developed this idea of sitting on the royal throne, or what's it called, the white ceramic throne, whatever, which is the toilet pretty much. And that's pretty much screwed up our hips, knees, and ankles, because we no longer squat down to do anything.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, so you either heard, so there's a reason people sometimes would call the full squat, a third world squat, because if you go to any third world country, where they don't have chairs, it's like a chair's a luxury.
Right.
Chair's a luxury. So it's like you squat down to eat, you squat down to go to the bathroom, you squat down to do chores. You're constantly doing that, and there's this constant folding of the joints like that is a very healthy thing for them to help express full range of motion.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah. So the squatty potty was an okay attempt at bringing people to do that more often on the toilet, right? So again, I say an okay attempt because there's more to it than just passively holding your knees up with the thing underneath you while you're sitting down. But it's a good place to start. It's better than doing nothing.
Because that's actually how it's supposed to be done, right?
Yeah. There's definitely some people that believe, and I think this is true, that there are certain cultures that have developed a more narrow hip socket, so they can't squat down like that, or they might need a wider squat to do it. But definitely, for most people, I feel like the only reason they can't squat down like that is because they've stopped. They sit down, or as Joe Rogan said, this is what most people's lives are. You get up from bed, you get up from bed, you sit down, you eat breakfast. You get in your car, you sit down, you go to work. You go to work, you sit down, you do work. You leave, you go to lunch, you sit down to eat lunch. You get back, you go back in the car, go back to work, you sit down, you go back to work, you sit down at work. Then you drive back home through traffic, sitting down, then you go home, sit down on the TV and watch TV, then you go to bed. How much have you expressed of your body doing that? You've used your mind maybe to do your intricate work if you're in some specialized field in medical or something like that. You do need to do that, but there's a reason why people have such crappy mobility.
Right.
It's because we don't use it. And here's the funny thing. So if I stand up, right, and I do I'd love to have more external rotation of my hip here.
This way?
Yeah, this is external, this is internal, right? So, because I'm turning my hip out here. So don't look at this.
Okay.
Look at the finger pointing to the moon. Look at the moon. It's right here.
Okay.
So it's
right here. This is what my hip is at, right?
Uh-huh.
I'd love to have that, but you know what I do every single day that requires this range of motion?
Huh. Oh.
So if I have to touch my foot, I don't have to do much more than turn it up like that to put my sock on, right?
Right.
Or to do anything. If I have to touch my foot, this is all I need. This is what I need for survival. This is what I need for survival. You know how hard it is to get my leg up any higher than that? Pretty hard. I do that more than I'm going to do ever like lay down on the floor and like hit these deep ranges of positions, right? So what my body needs on a daily basis is what it's going to build.
Right.
You know?
Gotcha.
That's it in a nutshell. That's why, like, okay, and for like my shoulder flexibility, like, why can't I bring my arm all the way up there? Well, I'm not doing enough stuff during the day that requires
makes
that.
So much sense.
Right? And you can see it. You can see if people go live in a third world country. I'm not saying to do that. I'm saying that if you do go live in a third world country, okay, you're probably going to, by the end of it, adopt a lot of things that are going to be very indigenous to that culture in a possible way. Again, certain things have sailed, you won't be able to. But your squat will probably definitely improve if you go to China.
Right.
Because you're going to have to squat down on their little toilet seats like this to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And every single time. And if you don't do this, right? And
You gotta go to the bathroom once a day.
If you only have the flexibility to do that, you're just going to pace the wall behind you.
Makes so much sense.
You know? So that's all stuff, and that's that's the simple way of putting it, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're not doing stuff on a daily basis. You have a bunch of things that no one sits on the floor.
Hey, this is my living room. I don't have a couch. Just FYI.
Yeah, it's good.
I don't even have a bed frame.
Yeah, and again, it's like some people, and I don't want to say like you don't have to not have those things. That's fine.
Right.
It's perfectly okay. I know people that have amazing mobility, and they have a Western. It doesn't happen to everybody, all right? But it can, very easily, and so it's just, you have to. I become kind of obsessed with it, where like I don't like that I'm obsessed with it, because it actually makes it. It's pretty annoying when you're walking down the street and you're like, "Are my feet aligned?"
Right.
You know, that's not what you should be giving a damn about when you're walking down the street or walking through a place, about that alignment. You know, that's why take 10 minutes a day to work on it, and then let it go.
Right.
Right.
You know? Yeah. That's so true. I didn't think about that.
Mm-hmm.
The
traction is probably another thing you should look at.
I agree.
Okay, traction is just is when you're pulling the capsules away from each other.
What's a capsule?
So a capsule is the main capsules you have are in your shoulder and in your hip. So you have the skin, the fascia. These are layers: skin, fascia, muscle, capsule, bone, or cartilage bone. I think you're probably going to kill me in the comments for that if you're still watching.
If you're still watching.
Okay, but but the capsule is kind of where we will, if we don't have like flexibility and mobility in the capsule, that shuts everything else down. So if you're not getting to that in your hip and in your shoulder, then you're probably missing out on a lot of strength development gains. I don't want to get too deep into that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but like, okay, so here's, can I touch you?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's some traction stuff, all right? So if I come here and relax. Okay, so if I come here and I do this, and I start pulling, at a certain point you're going to start feeling a separation in here. You're going to start feeling a separation in this area. Relax. Okay, and so going through here, right? You'll start to feel these. Okay, and then the wrist, did you feel that? As you came back, it was like, like that. Okay, you can relax. Okay, so that's all traction. Okay, that is pulling. I'm creating space in your joint. Okay, a lot of issues we get, especially in mobility, is because our joints are so compacted. The spine, right? You get compacted down. That's where you get bulging discs. A lot of other things happen because of that. It's because we don't create space in the joints. Kids have so much space in their joints. One, because they don't have the daily life responsibilities. Two, gravity hasn't impacted them long enough. They haven't had to sit down at a desk for all day like they until a certain age. Yeah. So like the traction is like this space you get from it. So things involving hanging, that's really good for your shoulders and elbows and wrists. And if you want to think about something as basic as that, it can help with traction. But if you look up, pretty much that is what physical therapists, that's their bread and butter, is end range training and traction. Right. Because they use that so much for helping to create space in the joint. Because yeah, once that impacts and goes that direction, you know, you start grinding.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So yeah, I said joint integrity, breathing, and traction, but joint integrity and traction kind of run hand in hand. So 2 things still, it wasn't 3.
Yeah, 2 things.
Yeah.
I hope all of you at home are gaining something out of this discussion because I sure did.
That's good. So, I don't know, I feel like we talked about a lot.
Yeah, I could talk forever, but
Yeah.
I think there comes a point where
Yeah. You feeling good, Rabbi Harry?
I think.
All right, awesome, man. Hey, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for welcoming me and letting me share my story, and good luck to all of you on your journey. And
Daven Mayeda, if you want to take a look at him, I don't know how long he'll be on Instagram, whatever. You know, I'll put on his all stuff down below.
feel free to message me.
Yeah.
I'll try to respond as much as possible.
He's pretty cool, and
All right.
yeah, and send some love his direction. I'm sure he'll send funny yours.
Yeah. Bye, guys. Good luck on your journey.